An entitled Karen gets her car towed off of my property after she once again, for like the 5th time, blocks my garage in front of my own unit. Things got so bad that she said if I don't pay the $300 fine she got, she's gonna injure me in such a way where I'll no longer be able to breathe. And I'm honestly still blown away by this entitlement because this truly was a crazy experience. Here's what happened. So years ago, I moved into a new apartment with individual garages in the alley behind the building. The building had 10 units, 8 studios, and 2 one-bedroom apartments, and I just happened to have one of the one-bedroom apartments. The day I moved in, I met someone who we will call Crystal. She lived in one of the studios on the opposite end of the building, and she immediately informed me, excuse me, but I park there. And she was literally referring to the front of my garage. Now, I gotta be honest, parking is scarce in that area, and street sweeping is done at odd hours, like 3:30 in the morning. So when people find a spot, they don't move until they absolutely have to. In fact, they'll Uber places instead of driving. I asked why she didn't park in her own garage, and she stated that she had an old broke down car in her garage already. I then told her that she needed to find another parking spot as I leave for work most days at 4 o'clock in the morning. She then gives me her phone number and just says, "Oh, you can call me and then I'll move it." And I'm already thinking of all the work I have to do moving in and setting up, so I just say okay as to not ruffle any new neighbors' feathers. Now, as you can probably guess, calling her to move her car was often a pain. There were times I'd call her and then 10 minutes later I was still waiting, and then I'd call again only to be screamed at by her saying, "I told you I was coming, please just be patient." But it didn't stop there. There would be times I'd be coming home at night and I couldn't get in because she blocked my garage. It even got to the point that I asked her to stop, but she simply wouldn't do it. The owner of the property was a buddy and client of mine, so eventually I told him all about it. He then posted signs on the property saying that parking in front of garages would result in the vehicle being towed. Well, one night I came home with my girlfriend and she was once again in front of my garage. I called her 3 times and she sent me to voicemail every single time. I even walked up to her unit and I heard her inside talking crap about me for calling her. So I thought to myself, okay, no problem. I'm just gonna call the tow truck and have your car towed. So I left my girlfriend in my place the next morning while I went to work for a few hours. My girlfriend then called me and said that Crystal was standing outside my window on her phone talking loudly. She said, "Yeah, some jerk who thinks he's better than me, all because he lives in a 1-bedroom, got my car towed for no reason because he is such a loser." And mind you, she said a lot of swear words in between some of those filler words, if you know what I mean. When I got home, Crystal was standing in the courtyard with a devilish grin on her face. She greeted me with a, "Oh, hello, neighbor," like I was supposed to be scared of her. I said hello back and then I just went inside. She then got on her phone and called someone and continued to talk about me, saying that I owed her $300 and I better pay it if I want to keep breathing. Well, the next day she had a guy, I'm assuming her man, come over to try and intimidate me. Now, for reference, I'm well over 6 feet tall and I'm 215 pounds, and this guy is maybe like an inch taller than me and he's 250 pounds at least. So for the next week, anytime I walked outside, he would just come out and give me a menacing stare, and I just stared back, but no words were ever exchanged. Well, I didn't pay her jack, and she got towed again a few days later for parking in front of someone else's garage. But this time, the owner, who is my friend, drove by and saw her car and was the one to call it in. And honestly, with all things considered, this idiot absolutely deserved it. Oh my gosh, imagine being so entitled that you not only can't park in your own space, but you also threaten someone just because your car gets towed. I just can't imagine that level of stupidity, especially from someone this entitled. So good for you for getting your revenge because they absolutely deserved it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My ex-wife and her new husband legally changed their last name to my full legal name. And right now I feel like I'm losing my mind because this is probably the craziest thing I've ever seen happen in my life. Here's what's happening. Okay, honestly, you simply can't make up what's happening to me right now because this is truly insane. For a bit of context, I was married once and my ex-wife blew it all to smithereens by cheating on me with one of my closest friends. And that betrayal crushed me, but whatever. I rebuilt and I got over it. Now, after the divorce, she decided to keep my last name, and I thought this was weird, but I also just let it go. Fast forward, and she eventually marries the guy that she cheated with, which again, fine, I have some closure, good for them. But here's where it goes completely off the rails. Her new husband's last name is the same as my first name, so when they hyphenated, their big shiny new married surname is now my entire full legal name. Imagine that your name is like David Carter, for example, and the guy she cheats with is named John David. They marry, they hyphenate, and proudly announce themselves as as Mr. and Mrs. David Carter, which is literally your name. Like, they're even on Facebook smiling and posting, "Oh, here's to the new official Mr. and Mrs. David Carter." Meanwhile, I'm staring at my phone thinking, oh my gosh, my ex-wife and her affair partner just legally rebranded themselves as me. And no, trust me, my name isn't common. People are going to see it and they're going to assume it's me. So I really need to know, am I losing my mind here, or is this just as completely messed up as it feels? Because right now I really just don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is some crazy behavior. I really think from like the bottom of my heart, your ex-wife is only doing this to try and get back at you in some way. She's not only probably painting you as the bad guy in this situation, but I guarantee you she's doing this just so she can hurt you in some kind of way. But on that note, and I think someone in the comment section of this post pointed this out, but my God, you are literally going to be living rent-free in her head for probably the rest of her marriage, which based on previous incidents is probably not going to last that long at all. Because in my opinion, once a cheater, always a cheater, but that's besides the point. Her legal last name is now your name, meaning that even though you moved on and you're like, okay, I have closure, I don't need this, she's going to be stuck in the past with her new shiny name being like, oh yeah, this is our new name. I sure showed him. Oh my gosh. And it's like, dude, what did she show you? That she's a cheating loser and she's trying to drag you through the mud? Like, I don't know about you, but that's like a dumb decision, and I guarantee you she's going to regret that later on. So if I was in your shoes, I would think of this as some kind of victory and be like, okay, I win. Thank you very much. She clearly hasn't gotten over the fact that she destroyed her marriage, and now she's almost like doubling down in some kind of way, and that is so weird. And truly, it's only a matter of time until it all crumbles down around her, because she sounds like a very toxic person. My husband started taking evening runs with a woman he met at our kids' daycare, and right now I am very uncomfortable with this situation. Here's what's going on. So my husband and I have been together for 6 years and married for 4. I've been hurt by cheating in past relationships, so I'm probably more sensitive to situations that feel questionable. My husband decided to get serious about fitness this year and started running every evening around our neighborhood. He's really dedicated to it and goes out every single day at around 7 o'clock after dinner. Now, I prefer morning yoga classes, so this has become his routine. Over the past few months, he's mentioned running into other people from the neighborhood and striking up conversations. Well, there's one woman in particular, recently divorced and maybe 5 years younger than me, who he started running with on a regular basis. Apparently, they met when both of them were picking up kids from the same daycare and realized they live nearby and have similar running paces. Last Tuesday, he came home later than usual from his run and mentioned that he'd stopped for smoothies with a friend at the juice bar on Main Street. When I asked him which friend, he seemed to hesitate before admitting that it was the divorced mom from his running group. He insisted it was totally innocent, just two parents grabbing post-workout drinks and just talking about training for the upcoming 5K. He swore nothing weird happened and that I know he's not like that. Our marriage has been really good overall, even when we've had stressful periods with work and parenting a toddler. My husband has never given me any reasons not to trust him in over 6 years, but this whole situation makes me really uncomfortable. A recently divorced woman, daily evening runs together, stopping for drinks afterwards, even the hesitation when I asked about it. It honestly makes me feel really uneasy. So am I being paranoid, or should I at least be concerned about these kind of boundaries? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, no, you're definitely not overreacting. I think you're being completely rational in this situation, and in my opinion, I think you should be concerned about this. Because first of all, I do believe your husband when he says, look, this is nothing serious, I'm just going for a run and she's a friend. So to that extent, I don't think he's the problem. In my opinion, I think the real problem is this recently divorced woman who's clearly latching onto your husband. Like, maybe this is one of those situations where he's just being way too nice and he doesn't know how to like set a boundary, because from the sounds of it, it really does seem like she has a thing for him and he just doesn't know how to be like, hey, I just want to be friends. So no, you're not overreacting, because if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Am I the jerk for lashing out at my aunt after she said some of the meanest things to me I've ever heard in my entire life? Here's how it all went down. Okay, so a month ago, I went to my cousin's house for a barbecue. It's a yearly event my family has before school starts, and it's basically like a reunion. I usually skip these events because I'm a homebody, but I was getting over a recent breakup and I wanted to get out more. So I'm standing talking to one of my cousins about a potential cruise when I see my Aunt Olive. Now, for reference, Olive is biologically my cousin, but her mother dropped her off with our grandma, and then she just never came back. I don't like her, but I'm non-confrontational and I usually just keep my distance. When I saw her, I was really surprised because I had not seen her since she left for college. Out of politeness, I asked how she was doing, and she says she's doing great and wants to catch up with family members, especially me. She then apologized for how she's acted towards me back then and wanted a relationship again. And while I did forgive her, I did also say say that I would keep a distance. Later in the night, I'm talking with someone and they ask if I want to go to a club with them. I declined since I wanted to concentrate on my studies to get a scholarship, but then my Aunt Olive comes out of nowhere and says, "You're too focused on college. You need to start acting your age and socialize more." I then responded by saying I'm not a child just because I don't enjoy going out to parties until 4 o'clock in the morning like you do. I prioritize my schooling since I have obligations. Olive then looked at me smugly and said, "Is that why your ex-boyfriend isn't here with you?" And when she said this is probably where I've gone way too far. I said to her, "I will never put someone over my profession because I would rather have my value be shown in my career rather than in men looking for a quickie." She then said to me, "Honey, you are just jealous. You will never be as skinny or satisfied as I am. I'm not surprised about what happened since finally someone put you in your place, and instead of standing up for yourself, you just completely caved. At least every man can know that you're a damaged loser who can't dish anything and also can't take it." Now, it's important to reference that when I was younger, I was attacked. The majority of the family knows what had happened to see if there was anyone else, but it was only me. The main reason why I broke up with my boyfriend was that he wanted to take our relationship to the next level, and I felt that he could do better than me. Now, at this point, I could feel my hands shaking. I could feel my eyes watering in betrayal, and the dead silence around us made me want to throw up. So I calmly gathered my stuff, but not before I lashed out. Ever since then, I silenced our group chat and I poured myself into my schoolwork to avoid thinking about the situation. Then, recently, my mother texted me asking to come over to see how I was doing. A lot of my family members are saying that I should apologize for how I acted, since she was probably just drunk. And I kind of feel bad for saying my comment, but that doesn't give her justification for hers. So here's my question. Am I the jerk for lashing out at my aunt, especially after she said I got what I deserved? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, your family's super toxic. How can anyone be on Olive's side? Seriously, she's saying some awful things to you. That is not okay. You can't just treat people like that and then expect you to somehow be okay with it. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. And in my opinion, I think Olive is toxic and I would do everything I can to stay away from her. Am I overreacting for telling my boyfriend that his female best friend can't sleep over in our bed while I'm away? Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old female and I'm going to be away for my sister's bachelorette party this weekend. Well, my boyfriend, who's 28 years old, just casually announced that his best mate from university, who is a woman, is in town for a gig and he's offered for her to stay at our place. And I think to myself, okay, this is grand. I'm honestly not bothered by this. But then he drops that since our sofa is kind of messed up and the airbed has a slow puncture, she'll just sleep in our bed with him while I'm not there. Well, when I heard this, I told him absolutely not. I'm not comfortable with that at all. I offered to go to the store after work and grab a new airbed, and I even said I would chip in for a travel lodge. I even said he could sleep on the floor if it was that much of a big deal. But he reckons that's insulting to her and that I'm making it weird because they're just friends. But here's the thing, they did have a thing back in school, but he says it was just for 2 weeks. She also has a habit of FaceTiming him late at night and posts old photos of them with captions like, "Oh, my absolute favorite human." Now, he swears blind it's all platonic, but sharing our actual bed just feels like a massive boundary being crossed. But now he's pretty pissed off about this, saying that I'm being controlling and that she's hard up for money, so it's just the decent thing to do. And now he's even saying that if she can't stay in our bed, he'll just go and stay at her brother's house with her instead. And to be honest, that sounds even dodgier. So am I the one going mental here? It's not that I don't trust him exactly, it just feels disrespectful to me and to our relationship. He's making out like I'm some jealous psycho, but I feel like this is a pretty normal thing to be against. What should I do? Okay, this is so weird, I just can't even begin to describe it. It seems like he's trying to set up the perfect scenario in which something could happen between the two of them. Like seriously, he's setting up the perfect storm for it to be like, "Oh, we're just sleeping in the same bed. It's not like anything's gonna happen or anything like that. I mean, come on. You're being so controlling." Meanwhile, I'm willing to bet that his ulterior motive is that he's gonna make a move on her, or something's gonna happen while they're both sleeping, and then it's gonna be like, "Oh, I don't know what happened. This happened out of nowhere. I'm so sorry." But it's like, no, this feels incredibly premeditated and almost like he's setting it up like this. And that part alone kind of makes me believe that he wants to cheat on you with this lady. Because holy crap, that is weird. And it's so funny to me that he's setting up this ultimatum where he's like, either she sleeps in the bed with me, or I'm gonna go to my brother's house with her and we're gonna sleep there instead. And it's like, wait a second, we just found the solution. Hold on, I found it. Have her stay at her brother's house instead of going to your place and sleeping in the same bed as your boyfriend. Like, oh my gosh, this guy is out of his mind. What is wrong with him? So no, you're not overreacting, and honestly, it seems like your boyfriend is trying to do something sketchy. Because in my opinion, this is a red flag that you absolutely cannot ignore. My parents lean on me every single month for some money that they need to pay off. And at 31 years old, I'm kind of losing my patience and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 31-year-old male and my parents are in their early 60s. And lately, I feel more like their safety net than their own son. Almost every month, there's a new request of some kind. In August, it was $1,200 for general expenses. Then $280 for utilities mid-month. And then just last week, I covered a $450 bill for house cleaning. By the end of the month, they hinted at help with a credit card bill too, but I'd already drained my own account and I just simply had to refuse. Adding it all up, it's nearly a third of what I earn. I care about them deeply. They gave me a good upbringing and I want them to feel secure in their later years, but I can feel the resentment creeping in because every dollar I send means less for my own emergency fund and retirement. Now, the hardest part isn't the money itself, it's just the conversation. Whenever I try to bring up limits, they brush it off by saying, "Oh, you're still young, you'll earn more money," or they'll be like, "Oh, just this one time." But trust me, just this one time has become the norm. I've even tried to make myself a simple, realistic plan of what I can do, just so I don't say yes to more than I can afford in the moment, but it just doesn't solve how to actually talk to them about my limits. But now I'm just wondering how I can draw financial boundaries with parents without blowing up the relationship, because right now I really just don't know what to do. Okay, this is really toxic because come on, you're telling me they had $450 to clean their house? Like, I don't know about you, but unless they're submitting like actual receipts of some kind, then I am absolutely not okay with paying for anything. That really does seem like they're taking advantage of you and they really are just like taking your money. And if that is the case, then that is such a huge betrayal of trust. Like, come on. I also know that if I was in your shoes, I would lose my patience too. I'd be freaking out on them. I'd be like, wait a second, what are you doing? I can't afford this. I don't care how young you think I am. Sure, I'll earn more, but it's not going to be because you keep spending all my money, because the way they're treating you right now is just completely unfair. My entitled neighbor tried to weaponize the town code enforcement against me, so I decided to get some revenge by doing the exact same thing towards her, and I've honestly never felt better about getting back at someone who absolutely deserved to get put in her place. Here's what I did. Okay, so my backyard neighbor has been difficult since the day I moved in. We closed on the house in late December, and by early spring, she was demanding I spend $10,000 so that I can build a dry well to stop rainwater from flowing into her yard. Now, my property sits higher than hers, and it's been this way for over 60 years. Now, when she said this, I refused, but offered to let her pay for it herself, and clearly she declined. Well, a few weeks later, she called the town to complain about a floodlight on my property that was missing a cover. Code enforcement then came by while we had people over, which made the entire situation incredibly embarrassing. The officer just told us that she's known for this and not to worry, just correct the issue and there will be no fines issued. A week later, the inspector returned to re-inspect the light. We had a nice chat, everything was in order, and the case was closed. Well, on Father's Day, we held a small surprise party for my father-in-law's 80th birthday and played music on a small speaker. Well, the following Friday, the same code enforcement officer called me up to say that my neighbor had complained again. He then told me not to worry, but reminded me that if I ever held a party with music and I just wanted to avoid any drama, I should apply for a permit. And I think you can see exactly where the story is going. Fast forward, and in mid-July, I overheard my neighbor on the phone inviting people to a barbecue, giving the time and date. And so the following Monday, I went to town hall and applied for a permit for that exact time and date. And you know what? It was actually approved. On the day of her party, as her guests arrived, I turned on loud Greek chanting music from the early 1900s. My grandparents loved it and used to torture me and my cousins with it growing up, so I knew exactly how annoying it would sound blasting across my yard. Within minutes, she ran over, banging on the door and ringing my doorbell repeatedly. The Ring doorbell footage of her tantrum is absolutely hilarious. But you know what? I didn't even answer the door, since I had taken my wife and my neighbors to the left and to the right of my house for drinks. The next Monday, code enforcement received a complaint, and the same officer handled it personally and informed her that a permit had been issued, and that unfortunately nothing could be done about it. But the best part about this is that my neighbors were also down for this revenge, because they've been dealing with her for decades, and honestly, I can't imagine putting up with her for that long. Dude, I hate neighbors like this so much. They're so annoying. Like, seriously, get a life. Stop bothering me and stop bothering like everybody in the neighborhood all over stupid stuff that really is so just meaningless. Did she really think that this new neighbor was going to spend $10,000 to fix something that didn't need to be fixed? Like, what's going on right now? You've dealt with this for how long? What, 60 years? And now suddenly you're going to be like, oh yeah, this is a problem. You need to fix it. Like, no, lady, do it yourself if you really don't like this. But I love the fact that you use these rules to basically get away with doing something incredibly annoying. And if that caused that lady to be embarrassed and frustrated, you know, just in the same way she did to you on on Father's Day, then in my opinion, this whole situation was entirely worth it. Am I the jerk for putting my roommate's dishes in a box instead of washing them, since he literally never does any dishes for himself? Because right now, he's almost demanding that I do the dishes for him if it really bothers me that much, with my other roommate claiming that our apartment is now a hostile environment. Here's what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old male and I live with 2 roommates. One of them, let's call him Jay, never washes his dishes. And I'm talking like ever. He'll cook a full meal, use every pan in the kitchen, and just leave it all piled in the sink until someone else caves. I've asked him nicely dozens of times, and he always says, yeah, I'll get to it later, but later never comes along. Well, 2 weeks ago, I decided that I was done. And so I bought a big plastic tub, and every time Jay left dirty dishes in the sink, I just moved them into the tub and I set it on his side of the room. No yelling, no lectures, just me basically saying that this is not my problem anymore. Well, yesterday, he blew up at me. He said I was being passive-aggressive and disrespectful of his property, but I told him it was more disrespectful to leave rotting food in the sink for everyone else. He says if it bothers me so much, I should just wash them since we all benefit from a clean kitchen. And now the other roommate thinks that I went too far and made the apartment hostile, but I honestly feel like I found a fair solution. His mess, his problem. So seriously, am I the jerk for boxing up my roommate's dishes instead of washing them? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what else to do. No, this is not at all a mistake or like you being a jerk in my opinion, because holy crap, this is hilarious. This roommate literally is trying to be like, I'm sorry, but if you don't like it, you could just wash it. And it's like, no dude, you need to wash it. You're the one using the dishes, like what are you talking about? Why am I somehow responsible for your mess, dude? Like what are you talking about? And when it comes to the other roommate being like, you're making this place hostile, it's like, okay, well Jay's making this into a pigsty. So if you want the place to be less hostile, then tell this guy to wash up after himself. So no, I think this is hilarious and I think this is a fantastic solution because this guy sounds incredibly lazy. My aunt tries to steal a family heirloom and thinks that she deserves an apology for being called out. My aunt is, to put it politely, a complete piece of work. The more accurate description probably violates the terms of service. She isn't overly well liked in my family. However, my grandparents, especially my grandmother, believe that they can't exclude her from family events based purely on their personal feelings for her. My aunt is an extremely shallow and materialistic individual. She has tried to get my grandparents to sell property that's been in the family for over 100 years so the money could be split between my uncles and my dad. This story, however, involves a very old pocket watch. I don't know the details, but the watch is Swiss and very old. It is gold with platinum inlay and is extremely valuable. Now, this watch has been passed down from father to son for a long time. It is going to be passed on to my dad and eventually to me. My aunt hates this. She has tried to convince my grandfather to give it to my uncle, who's the second oldest, and for my dad just to say my uncle should have it. Neither have agreed to that either, by the way. It all came to a head on Saturday. We were at my grandparents' house for a birthday celebration. Everything is going well, people are having pleasant conversations, and my daughter, who is 5, and this is relevant, and the youngest cousins are having fun playing, and somehow not causing more noise than should be humanly possible, which is nice. It's been a wonderful day until my aunt goes to leave. She is saying her goodbyes, everything is good, and then my daughter pipes up and says, "Don't forget to put the watch back, Auntie S." I look at my daughter and ask what watch, and she says the fancy gold one. My grandpa walks to his study and comes back out asking if she'd had taken the watch. My uncle looks at my aunt and says she didn't. To cut a long story short, my aunt is made to hand over her handbag, and lo and behold, the watch is inside. Everyone is furious. My uncle can't believe what she's done, and my grandpa wants her out of the house. This would all be bad enough, but to make this even better, she calls me that night and tries to scold me for raising a daughter who's a snoop, and that I needed to do a better job as a parent. I just laughed and said that she's hardly one to talk, given everything that she's done, and then I just hung up on her. I'm not surprised she tried to steal the item, but I'm even more surprised she tried to make it my fault. Ever since then, she's been shunned from the family. Family heirlooms are a precious thing that do get handed down from person to person throughout generations, and they're very important. So I can totally understand why everybody in the family would be super upset with this aunt for trying to steal a pocket watch that is literally 100 years old. That is so unacceptable, it's not even funny. Like maybe the aunt just felt left out because this was being handed down to their brother or something like that, but like, good lord, you don't just straight up steal it just to try and sell it. And she literally picked an item from the grandparents' house that people would know is missing. Like that watch is probably something that is always brought up in conversation and constantly looked at family reunions. Why on earth would you try and take that? I also find it baffling that this lady then tried to blame this guy and his kid for her trying to steal. Like this is straight out of some children's cartoon where the bad guy is like, ooh, I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you stupid kids. Like what a terrible human being. Thankfully though, it looks like the parents and everybody else in that family have come to their senses and shunned this person from their family. Because if they're willing to steal a 100-year-old family heirloom just to make a quick dollar, who knows what they could do next if they're still allowed in the family. So in my opinion, good luck and good riddance, because this family does not need that in their life. My entitled dad thinks he deserves gifts and recognition now that I'm graduating from college. For context, I live in the Philippines. There are no good jobs available for anyone that is not a college graduate, and it is normal for parents to pay for their children's education until they graduate from college. This is all because we don't have much opportunities to work as a high school graduate. Back in high school, I was studying as a scholar in a state university, which meant that my parents didn't need to pay for anything. They only had to pay for my allowances and my books. Other than that, they were off the hook. I studied my junior and senior year of high school in that piece of garbage, and I attempted to transfer at least 4 times. I was bullied so bad that this is where my mental issues started popping up. I was engaging in some really scary thoughts about self-harm, depression, and anxiety. It started affecting my grades to the point that I couldn't do anything for the entirety of my day but sleep. My teachers complained that I was too quiet during class hours, and how they expect me to respond and to participate in class. When I was in my last year of senior high school, I decided enough was enough, so I passed my application to a lot of schools. In the Philippines, in order to gain a slot in your desired schools, you have to take an entrance exam. This was prevalent everywhere, and the grades you received in those exams determine if you passed the school and the major you wish to study in. I passed all the schools in the Big Four, a prestigious set of schools in the country. But even though my parents know that they will now be paying for my college tuition, because again, it's the norm in the Philippines, my mother quit her high-paying job in corporate to become a teacher earning less than half of the country's minimum wage, and they bought a house which drained their savings account. I wasn't oblivious to everything that happened, so I asked them 3 times if I can go to the school I want, and they said yes. But then, around that time, my mother got lung cancer, and they were forced again to drain their savings. I knew my fate was sealed. I accepted it. I'll continue studying in the same university that I was bullied in for 6 years and probably be a call center agent at night so that I can at least get a head start on my savings. I asked my parents again if I can study in my chosen university and told them that I would be okay studying at my current school if they can't afford it. They said yes. But here's the clinch though. They sold one of their properties during my stay in the now expensive university, so there really isn't much financial restraint on their part. They are loaded again. They even renovated the house and bought an expensive motorcycle, but they have done nothing but taunt me and hold it over my head at how expensive my tuition actually is. I've been studying at this school for 3 years and I've heard nothing but continuous complaints about how expensive it is to send me there. They've complained over and over again and used this as a reason to play favoritisms with my brother. When I turned 21, I asked them for $200 as a birthday gift and to not eat out or have any kind of celebration, and they gave me $40 instead with no celebration, citing that my tuition is already expensive. Not even a month later, they bought a Pomeranian, which cost $1,000. It felt like a slap in my face because they would rather buy an expensive dog instead of giving me a birthday present. For my brother's 21st birthday, they gave him a motorcycle. They have continually inferred I was a burden and a leech, even though whenever I made attempts to work, they would stop me from doing it. I have the opportunity to be a call center agent again during the peak of the pandemic, so that meant I can work and study from home. They said no and told me to focus on studying. When I actually do earn money and try to use it for something important, like a tooth extraction because my tooth had abscesses and can cause blood poisoning, they complain that I hoard my own money and don't even treat them. I'm just sick of it. If I knew me wanting to get a good education would be this bad, I would have just stuck with my old school, even if it meant I was going to be bullied for 4 more years. It's not like I'm a bad student. I'm a consistent honor student. I tried applying for a scholarship, but my parents won't sign off on it, saying it looks desperate and that they can afford to send me to school, which is ridiculous. The cherry on top of this ice cream sundae that I have to deal with is the fact that my dad asked what I will be giving them now that I'm graduating from school. Hello? Have you forgotten how miserable you made me feel? I was fine with studying at my old school, and I only transferred because they assured me. I didn't push. They insisted. They have continuously used my wanting a good education as a reason not to pay for any of my necessities. Dental care? Nope. Glasses? Nope. Medical checkups or medicine when I get COVID? Nope. Am I being ridiculous for feeling this way? I feel like I should have just gotten a gap year, earned some money, and then apply. But I'm pretty sure if I did that, they still would be unsatisfied. I had several opportunities to balance both work and school, but they kept insisting I focus on my studies. I feel like they purposefully make me avoid any opportunity to earn money, so that way I can continue to be dependent on them. And honestly, that's just not fair. This is a nasty situation because it's unlike anything I've ever seen. I would almost expect that this student would just take out some loans and go to school instead of having to depend on the parents. And it's also really weird that the family is kind of holding this over their head to try and lord it against them or something. That's not fair. You're the one paying for them to go to school. At least pretend like you have some interest in their success. And I honestly don't think this person is in any way being entitled or anything along those lines. If that really is the norm in the Philippines, where the parents pay for their child's education and university, then that's the way it is. I mean, from my perspective, it looks a little weird, but then again, I'm not from the Philippines. So I totally understand that this kid would be saying to their parents, hey, are you going to be able to pay for my university or not? Because that's what's expected in their country. But it seems like the parents came about this all wrong and they were just being very rude and toxic. And I agree with what the original poster said towards the end of their experience. Their parents are 100% trying to prevent them from working so that the original poster can be reliant on them pretty much for the rest of their lives, which is just not fair. Any sensible adult, in my opinion, should be able to take care of themselves and provide for themselves within reason. There's obviously extenuating circumstances all over the place in that statement, but generally speaking, I think people want to be able to take care of themselves and have their own money. And it seems like kind of a power trip from the parents where they're like, hey, I'm paying for your university. You don't have to worry about anything. They even denied their kid getting a scholarship. I mean, what parent would not want to save money and allow their kid to get a scholarship? That does not mean they're desperate. That means that they're smart and they met some really cool qualifications. Overall, based on what we were told, it looks like this original poster has some really toxic people in their life, and I think they'll be a lot better off once they move out, get away from them, and have their own life. My fiance cheated on me for 3 weeks. I've been with my fiance for 10 years. We grew up together and are best friends. I found out yesterday that he's been seeing someone else for 3 weeks. This is entirely unlike him. He has never shown me anything to lead me to believe that he's this kind of person. He's very sweet, and everyone who knows him would describe him as the nicest person that they know. For the past month, he's been distant, but he just got promoted at work and moved to a store 40 minutes away. So I figured he has been just very busy. I myself just started my own business and have been busy as well. The past week or so, I've been feeling like something was off, and one day he was acting very depressed, and I tried to comfort him. I asked him what was wrong, and he said that he was confused and that he felt like he was not a good person anymore. Alarm bells went off in my head, and I pressed him for more details because I wanted to know why he didn't think he was a good person anymore. He just said he wanted more alone time lately and was feeling guilty about wanting more alone time. I now know that that was a complete lie. I told him I love my alone time and I know I get more of it than he does. He works late and I play Elden Ring and read, and that he shouldn't feel guilty. We've lived together so long, it's okay to need time apart. Of course, at the time, I didn't know he was cheating. He embraced me and it was nice, even though now I know why he was feeling really guilty. That was Tuesday. So then this Wednesday, he opens his store and works until 10 o'clock at night. This isn't unheard of for him, but seems excessive to me still. I cook dinner and text him when he thinks he'll be home. He tells me he left about 20 minutes ago, which is great. That means he'll be home in 20 more minutes. About an hour passes by, and I text him again asking if there was traffic. No answer. Another hour passes, and now I've texted him about 10 more times and called him about 14 more times. In my mind, he's been in an accident, and that's why he's not answering the phone. I'm about to start calling hospitals when he comes home finally 2 hours and 20 minutes later. I'm crying because I was genuinely worried he had passed away. I yell at him and he apologizes, and I ask him where he was. He says he went to get his energy drinks for the morning, which he does do that, and a drunk man asked him for a ride home, and he got caught up talking with him and he got lost on the way back. This is also not unlike him. He's done it before, even though I wish he wouldn't. So the story checked out as far as I could tell. We go to bed and we both can't sleep. I should have confronted him that that interaction would have only taken an hour and a half at most, if I'm even being lenient. So what did he do for the other hour? He also can't sleep, which is suspicious to me. He also didn't eat his dinner. Thursday, he goes to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. I simply couldn't take it anymore, so I texted him and told him that I know I have no proof, but I just feel like he's cheating on me. I listed the reasons why, and I even felt guilty accusing him of this. He admits to everything. He tells me her name and I look her up. She's married with a kid. He says it's been going on for 3 weeks and they've only made out, which I know it's stupid, but I do believe him. I won't go into details why, but still, having an emotional relationship with another woman for 3 weeks hurts more than if he just slept around with someone once. I ask a bunch of questions and he seems to be answering honestly. I know I can't trust him now, but I know him and he sounds genuine. He said he broke up with her and she asked to see him one more time, and that's what he was doing Wednesday night, when I thought he was passed away in a ditch somewhere. They were breaking things off and he admits that he kissed her that night too. I'm heartbroken, obviously. He sounds like he doesn't know what he wants, like he's not going to fight to stay with me. Today, this morning, I text him while he's at work and he calls me. He's remorseful and apologetic, but today he does sound like he wants to be with me. I was sure this morning I was going to kick him out. Now I'm unsure. I spent 1/3 of our life together. We've gone through a lot together. I told him I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but we're not engaged anymore at the very least. What should I do? Should I stay with him or should I kick him to the curb? In my opinion, I would kick him to the curb. 3 weeks isn't a slip up. That is a very serious, conscious choice. This man intentionally went to this other woman's house to spend time with her because clearly he's not getting something out of his future marriage. I mean, what kind of scumbag is this guy? He just does this behind your back for 3 weeks and only says something once you finally catch on. Like, it sounds like you had a great 10 years dating this guy, but in my opinion, he is not loyal. I would not stay with someone like this for anything. He might be a good guy, he might be very honest and earnest and have every quality you're looking for, but at the end of the day, he cheated on you for almost a month, and he said nothing until you pried and poked and got it out of him. Thankfully, you're not married at this point, but this is a wonderful red flag that you can hold on to and say, hey, wait a second, this is not the kind of person I want in my life. And to me, it doesn't matter what kind of attributes or qualities or personality traits they have. If they've cheated on you and they've decided to not be loyal, especially when you're engaged, that is an absolute deal breaker in my opinion. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. What would you do if you were in her situation? My girlfriend is making fun of me because I take my therapy seriously and I don't know what to do. Am I just being overly sensitive? So me and my girlfriend have been together for about 4 months. After my therapy session yesterday, I told her that the therapist said I was an amazing person and that I'm doing a great job with my therapy. She made jokes about the therapist flirting with me and asking if it was kosher, then called me a therapist pet. Then I told her about how I've been journaling between sessions so I can have specific things to go over in therapy. She then made jokes about that, saying that I don't have to win at therapy. I told her that I have to take this seriously because I want to get the most out of my sessions and improve as a person. I personally found this comment, as well as the previous ones, to be really hurtful because I am very supportive of her. And whenever she tells me about her friends or her employer telling her she's great, I always agree and try to elevate her and not downplay it and pull her down. I'm really upset over this. It might seem like something minor, but this is really important to me. Am I being overly sensitive? What should I do in this situation? I don't think you're being overly sensitive, and I think you're going about your therapy sessions in the right way. You really should be taking those situations seriously, and writing things down and keeping a journal just so you can make sure you're making progress can be really useful. Not to mention, you are probably paying for these therapy sessions, and I'm willing to guess that these sessions are probably not cheap. They probably charge a very high price just for you to go in and talk about these things. So it's kind of weird to me that the girlfriend would then joke about this and kind of make fun of him for trying to do well in therapy. There's also the possibility that maybe this is being said in a vacuum, and so you're probably already feeling vulnerable as it is, and maybe it was just meant to be this subtle jab and not something that's super specific and geared towards you to be some kind of offensive comment. Like, maybe there's the possibility that she was just trying to take subtle jabs at you in like a flirting manner. Either way, it sounds like you need to have this conversation with your girlfriend and explain to her that, hey, these therapy sessions are really helpful for me and I would really help me out if you were more supportive. I think that's a reasonable request, especially since it sounds like you've been very supportive of her and you've always tried to elevate her and build her up. But overall, in my opinion, from my perspective, it looks like you're doing things correctly when it comes to therapy and in trying to improve your situation. But I think some honest communication between you and your girlfriend could probably go a long way. essay and could possibly bring you both much closer together. Today, I completely messed up by plagiarizing my essay and winning a competition. Okay, so this was actually a long time ago in 6th grade when I was about 11 years old. We were given the assignment to write an essay on World War II, and this essay was special as it was going to be read by actual war veterans, and the top 3 essays would be announced at an assembly and given prizes. This essay was completed over a period of about a week, and like the lazy idiot that I was, I spent the whole week not doing any work. The due date comes around and I had not started yet and needed to complete the essay in about 30 minutes. This is when I think to myself, hey, I'll just copy and paste a short World War II article I found online and submit that as my completed essay. And well, that's exactly what I did. The idea that this essay was going to be better than the work of other 11-year-olds around me didn't even cross my mind. I thought I would just submit the plagiarized essay and then I could just wipe my mind clean of this whole mess. Then the day came around where we had the assembly, a veteran came up, gave his speech, and started to announce the winners. The 2nd and 3rd place winners were not a big surprise for anybody. These were the kind of kids who usually did well in these sorts of things, so no big surprise there. Then he started to announce the winner, starting with praise for the amazing work he had read, proclaiming that he felt like he was back reliving his experiences and that it almost brought a tear to his eye. Man, this kid must be good, is what I thought to myself moments before he announced the winner. Everyone who knew me sounds surprised, as it was a major upset, but it actually happened. He said my name, and moments later, I was in front of the entire school, shaking this man's hand and accepting a $25 voucher for a bookshop in the next town over. Everyone knew I cheated, and I mean everyone, almost immediately. The 3rd place kid thought it was kind of funny, but the kid that got 2nd place was absolutely livid he didn't get the voucher. I'm not proud of what happened tricking a veteran like that, but at least I got my punishment. All the teachers knew, so of course I would. Well, actually, I didn't. Despite several instances where it was made clear that I did not actually know the contents of my own essay, I was never punished. So at the end of the day, I tricked a veteran, robbed my peers of recognition for their hard work, and was placed on a pedestal over the entire school while doing it, and karma never got me. Oh, and by the way, I never used the voucher either. I can't believe that this original poster got off scot-free. Maybe it was because he was 11 years old that they were like, nah, who cares? But that's some like early morning cartoon antics that you would never expect a child to actually take part in. Like, he literally got away with this without any kind of punishment, despite everybody knowing that he didn't write a single word of that essay. I also kind of think that maybe the veteran also knew that he didn't write the essay, which to me is even funnier, but maybe it doesn't go that deep. But I think it's personally hilarious how he got away with this and nothing happened to him. You can bet if he was older that this would definitely not have flown, especially if he was in college. Oh my goodness. His entire academic career would be completely ruined and tarnished for the rest of his life. But I think probably because he was 11, it wasn't that big of a deal. Although some kind of punishment would have been nice to try and teach him a lesson, but I mean, he dodged all of that. And worst about it, he didn't even use the voucher. The least he could have done was given the voucher to the 2nd place winner. They wanted to use it. They were upset that they didn't get it. And this guy cheated and got it and just didn't use it. It's both really funny and kind of tragic if you think about it. But overall, kudos to this kid for getting away with probably something that would have ruined him normally, while also having a great sense of humor throughout the entirety of it. My boyfriend's entitled mother is not allowing him to move into the house that is under his name, and now we're ready to take her to court. My partner and I started our relationship 5 years ago. When we met, I found out he shared a mortgage with his mother because when her ex left, she couldn't hold the mortgage herself. My boyfriend was a good son to his mom, so he stepped up and did the right thing at the time. I moved in with him after 7 months, and that's when I started to realize there's something really off about his mother. To give a visual of the house, it's a 2-story house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms upstairs and 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom downstairs. When I moved in, we lived in his bedroom upstairs. All downstairs was absolutely filled to the ceiling with junk and boxes, almost like an episode of Hoarders. Completely unlivable. There's also a laundry room down there, and that's where we all did our laundry. We were finally able to convince his mom to get her stuff out of the way so we can move downstairs and have a bit more privacy. There's a door leading into the living area of the downstairs, and she would use that to get to the laundry. We spent most of our time in our living area and got tired of her constantly coming through it, so I tried to talk and make a compromise. There was 2 other ways to get to the laundry room. One is down the outside stairs to the laundry room door, and the other is through the garage and through the hall. I went and bought some curtains to set up on either side of the door, so she had her own special hallway, but it didn't really matter because she kept going through the curtains towards our side of things anyways. One day we replaced the doorknobs with a doorknob that locks, and that lock would be from the inside. We had locked up and left the house for a few hours. When we got back, back, we found she had taken a butter knife and forced open the lock, something that could have easily been avoided. When we confronted her, she got on the floor and cried, and my boyfriend went over to comfort her. And that's when I realized that she is manipulating him. I only asked why she did that, and she broke down with crocodile tears. Eventually, I convinced my boyfriend to get away, and we moved into an apartment in town. It was absolute bliss. I think from there he started to gain a lot more confidence and stopped talking to his mom as much. This was all 4 years ago. After we moved out, my boyfriend's mother decided to spend a bunch of money and renovate the downstairs and make the house into a duplex type situation, with her living on the bottom floor. It's separate now, and she's invading no one's space. She's charging a tenant $2,200 to live upstairs, which almost completely pays for her mortgage and all of her bills. Now here's the kicker of all of this. My boyfriend is still on the title and mortgage of this house. When he was there, he was paying everything, including her phone bill. All of this would make sense as his mother does not work. So fast forward to now. I'm 2 months pregnant with my boyfriend's baby. We're starting a family, and my boyfriend has asked to move into the upstairs apartment so he can have a bigger home to raise our baby in. His mother said no. So because of this, we asked her to take his name off of the house, and she still said no. She refuses to let him live in the house, she won't buy him out of owning part of the house, and she won't take his name off of the house because that means that she would not be able to keep the house. She cannot keep the house without my boyfriend being listed on it. Her reasoning is that she wants to save up for her retirement, and she needs the $4,000+ a month she makes from the tenant, along with alimony money, disability money from the government, and under the table work that she does on the side. All of this while we as a couple are currently grasping at straws. My boyfriend has finally realized that his mother doesn't care about him or his child, and now we are taking her to court. That house is worth almost $700,000, and we are going to force a sale for at least half of it. She's proved time and time again that she's selfish, greedy, and entitled, and she just takes advantage of her son. And honestly, I'm just in shock over all of this, because it's the fact that she has done everything she can to take advantage of my poor boyfriend, despite the fact that he has done everything for her. Really sad stuff going on here, because I can see this unfolding. I've met people like this who use their family members just so they can get a leg up and then abuse the courtesy that others have extended to them. This lady is no different. She not only decided to take over this house that is not completely hers, but then deny the person who is on the mortgage the right to live in this home, which by the way is now a duplex because this lady renovated it to be such. This lady is literally working the system just so she can have a free place to live, and all at the expense of his son and his girlfriend and his child. He has every right to move into that house, and she cannot stop him from having part of it, if not owning it outright and being a part of this home. Apparently this is going to be a really long process to try and force a sale from his mother, but it really is for the best, especially when you have a mom that is absolutely a garbage human being and doing everything she can to take advantage of the kindness of her son, which in my opinion is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for getting upset at one of my friends giving me a bad rating on Snapchat? My friend in this story we will call Sarah. That's not her real name, just for reference. Sarah has always been the ringleader of our friend group containing 6 people, including me, and I feel like she strongly dislikes me, even though I am always caring for everyone else, and despite that, I'm always the one left out. For example, let's say we were going to hang out at the park. If that was going to happen, I would be the person that's going to be left out. This actually happened a few times, and once I was coincidentally at the park when they were hanging out. They were embarrassed and just tried to pretend like they were going to ask me, or they thought I was busy when in reality, they just did not want to include me. Another example comes from school. We were having a group assignment and the group limit was 4 people, and Sarah said, I hope we can do it with 5 people. Their thinking was, let's stretch the limit to 5 people so we can fit everyone in our friend group, leaving me out. They were also planning to get everyone matching rings and not one for me. Sarah is also an extremely manipulative person. Sarah intentionally left me out of this and so many other situations when she could have easily allowed me to be involved. And I know some of you are thinking that I'm probably not actually a part of their friend group, or that they don't think of me as being a part of the friend group. But whenever I'm part of the conversation, they're all saying that we're all in a friend group together. Anyway, after a long time of me asking my parents to allow me to get Snapchat, they finally agreed. I pretty much knew how Snapchat worked though, because I had a lot lot of friends who had it, and we had watched a lot of TikTok videos that involve Snapchat and things like that, so I knew how to use it pretty much. I'm pretty sure you guys are also familiar with the Send It feature. You can ask people for ratings on yourself, and like would you rather questions, things like that. Well, Sarah posted on her Snapchat story a Send It, and it said, send a name for a rating. I was obviously curious, and I sent my name in. About half an hour later, Sarah posts on her Snapchat story my name with the following ratings. I've got a 4 for personality, a 4 for looks, a 5 for trustworthy, and a 5 for smarts. Overall, I'm kind of upset about this. I got nothing over a 6. I know you're supposed to be honest, but it still kind of hurt. And for all my other friends, they didn't get anything below 7s. I didn't tell anyone that I was upset about this because, well, I know they would get defensive of Sarah because, well, she's the ringleader, as I mentioned before. They would just say something like, well, you're supposed to be honest. And I get that, but it's just really annoying to me that she thinks of me this way. I'm honestly just not sure what to say or to say anything at all. Should I just leave it as it is for now, or should I speak up and say something? What should I do? I know it's probably going to be hard to hear, but those friends are not actually your friends. They consistently leave you out of stuff, and Sarah is incredibly mean to you. It may seem like Sarah's in charge, but in reality, all of them are avoiding you. Like, those are not your friends. You may feel like they are your friends because you're like trying to insert yourself into that group, but everything you have said in this post only proves further that they do not care about you. They talk bad about you on Snapchat. Sarah, this ringleader, is clearly conspiring against you, and all these other girls who are supposed friends with you are ignoring you and completely casting you aside. I would honestly recommend finding new friends who will treat you right and invite you out to things. You don't deserve to be treated like this by people who are clearly just ignoring you. And in all actuality, to really boil this down, Sarah is a straight up bully, and you can find much better friends who are actually going to care about you and find you valuable much quicker than you think. So cut them loose, find some new friends, and enjoy your life, because life is too short to get caught up with a crowd of people who don't care about you. My husband is in love with an online scammer who he believes is going to marry him. My husband and I are newlyweds. We are both 21 years old and we're both from Ukraine. And in Ukraine, it's pretty common to marry from the ages of 18 to 21. We married only in January. In March, my husband said he wants to take a break from living together because he is depressed and wants some alone time. He said that we will both not date other people and that it would be absolutely disrespectful and wrong if we see other people because he just needs time to feel better. I told him I agree, and that if anything changes and he decides to date others, to immediately let me know so we can divorce because I am not okay with that. He said yes, he would let me know, but he's not interested in doing that. Well, I found out that he started the break on March 28th and registered for a dating site the same day. On April 1st, already a girl messaged him and they've been talking every day and are in a relationship. I even asked him 2 weeks ago that if you have a girlfriend, I won't be mad, but tell me the truth so we can divorce. He has stopped texting me, he has stopped answering the phone, and he is lying to me. I only found out yesterday because he said he wanted a divorce immediately because he's marrying someone else. But I think she's not who she says she is. He says that she told him she's 18, working in Poland and Ukraine, and will come to Ukraine to be with him, and they will marry and be together forever because apparently she is perfect and he would never hurt her. Why would someone in Poland look for someone in Ukraine without even being physically here? Why would she go into a war zone to be with someone from Ukraine? The biggest thing is he has never heard her voice and she won't send a picture or talk on video call with him at all. I am pretty sure it's a 47-year-old Ukrainian man living in a basement. What hurts is he asked for a break on March 28th and replaced me immediately like it was nothing. He calls her the exact same nickname he called me. From all the nicknames he could have possibly chosen, he chose the one that was given to me. And he writes her the exact same words that he wrote me when I met him online. We of course met through online dating, but our situation was way different because we met in person. It looks like he's going to be moving forward with completely replacing me, and I feel absolutely completely replaceable. I'm so distraught over this and I don't know what to do. What would you do if you're in my situation? This is an easy one for me because this is so obvious it's not even funny. You need to divorce this freak. If he really wants to be with this mysterious person online and spend the rest of their life with them and get married to a stranger they've never met, they've never talked to, never had any physical interaction with in the slightest, then he deserves the best. Because that, in my opinion, is a fantastic way to not only get hurt, to not only get kidnapped, but also to get completely catfished. This guy is ruining the good thing he has in his life, which is you. And you could do so much better than this weirdo trying to date some online scammer, who he's never met, by the way. I think online dating is fantastic when you do it right. Whether Whether it's through an application or a website, it's a good way to get to know people and to meet people. But that second part, in my opinion, is the most important part. You have to meet them in person. You can't possibly expect to want to marry somebody who you've never met. I understand there's cultural differences around the world where people have different expectations, but for the most part, and from my own perspective, there's no way on earth I would decide, hey, this person I've been talking to for maybe the past few weeks, this person, I'm going to marry them, even though I've never met them. That just sounds crazy to me. I feel really bad for the woman in this situation because she deserves so much better than this. This is just unacceptable. His behavior is literally a reflection of his character and has nothing to do with this lady's worth, value, or importance. The sooner she lets go of this guy, the happier she will feel. And this guy can be happy with his mysterious, non-existent girlfriend on the internet. A lot of things about my boyfriend bother me, and I don't know if I should continue to be with him. I have been with my boyfriend for just a couple of months, but I'm already having second thoughts. I think he's a nice guy and we have a few things in common. We both like hockey, video games, stuff like that. But there are a lot of things about him that bother me. Even though I like him and I think he's a fun guy, these issues, especially combined all together, are making it hard for me to like him as much as I feel I should like a new partner. To be honest, many of them are complete turnoffs. Since the relationship is still new, I feel I should probably end things before they get too serious. If that's something I want to do, but I need help figuring it out. To start things off, he has no productive hobbies. Most of his free time goes to smoking the herb, vaping, and playing video games. I love games as well, but I spend a fraction of the time that he does playing them. I think it's important to have more activities and hobbies that get you outside or be creative, like hiking or playing music, something. He also pressures me into smoking the herb with him, which I did once because I felt pressured to. I don't generally smoke or drink much, but he kind of made me feel like I was boring for not wanting to do these things with them. He also generally looks down on me being on antidepressants. He has actively encouraged me to stop taking them and to just try smoking the herb instead, as if that's a solution. This next one is really the worst one, but he has made some racist and prejudiced remarks that really bother me. I expressed to him that these are very inappropriate and that they upset me, and he just kind of shrugged it off. He said that it shouldn't matter what he says behind closed doors, but to me, that is a big deal. That says a lot about a person when they're comfortable and saying it in that kind of context. It makes me think ahead of if we had any children. Is he going to try and pass on these prejudice ideologies onto them? It just really doesn't settle well with me. He doesn't have many friends, and the few that he does have, he rarely sees or puts any effort into. He also complains a lot about his job and has threatened to quit numerous times without having any sort of backup plan or other education. I know it's important for him to be happy, but he doesn't seem very ambitious or motivated in his career, and it scares me to think of what he would do if he actually did quit. He can be very high-strung and difficult at times, and he also overthinks a lot about our relationship, which makes it hard to enjoy it. I definitely feel like I might be settling on him, but what do you guys think? Am I being too sensitive or difficult? Are my expectations too high? I don't have much experience dating, and so this is all very new to me. I am very close with my sister who told me it doesn't sound like he's the right man for me, but I wanted some unbiased opinions. What should I do? You should dump this guy almost immediately. Your boyfriend is currently casually racist, and there's no reason for you to stick around with that. I would not want to raise kids around that in the slightest. He also sounds like a deadbeat, like he has no productive hobbies, he has no ambition in his life. He would much rather just sit around, play video games, and smoke the herb. You could do that on your free time, do whatever you want on your free time, but to be any semblance of a father or a productive husband in your life, he needs to cut those habits, or you need to find someone who is going to be more involved in your life, because this is just unacceptable. To put some context into this, her boyfriend's 28 and she's 27. That's like prime time to try and figure out what you want to do with your life. It's not like that across the board for everybody, but that is a really crucial time to know what you do and don't want to do. And spending all of your time just playing video games or other activities is not going to be good. It's okay to do that in your free time. Do that as a hobby. They can even do it together. But only doing that, as well as complaining about your job and saying, oh, I'm going to quit, without having a backup plan, is dangerous and something that this lady does not need. She deserves to have a man who's going to take care of her, who's going to be there for her, and provide for her and her family. It's unacceptable to allow anything else. A lot of the other things here just seem like minor inconveniences, like him not having a lot of friends, or him not having any kind of like hobby outside of video games. Like those are pretty minor in my book. But the fact that he is casually racist and says some pretty prejudiced remarks is more than enough for me to say you gotta go. And I can understand where you don't have a lot of dating experience and getting rid of your boyfriend might be scary, but in the end and overall, you will be a lot happier being away from someone like that. My parents want to reconcile and get back in contact with me after 6 years of no contact, and I don't know what to do. I am a 28-year-old female, and I'm the black sheep of my family, and have been for a long, long time. My parents were devoted Christians, and I felt completely trapped and suffocated. My dad would get in my face and scream at me until I had a panic attack. I stuttered for years because of it. I could never do anything right. When I was a teenager, I basically just started intentionally making my parents mad because, well, they were going to accuse me of doing it anyways. I had a string of bad boys, which were pretty toxic relationships, and in hindsight, I was just desperately wanting someone to love me. I did some illegal substances, I got a few misdemeanors, and I wasn't exactly the Catholic schoolgirl my parents wanted. Eventually, I went to rehab and then started doing therapy. Now, I'm pretty boring and ordinary. I am married to an amazing guy, and we have 2 children ages 2 and 4. I have a good career and we live a pretty ordinary life. I haven't seen or spoken to anyone in my family in 6 years, even though I only live about 45 minutes away from my hometown. I found a hobby I absolutely love and sell my creations at festivals and stuff like that. My husband and my children always come with me, and it's kind of a fun family thing to do. Well, over the weekend, we were vendors at a little festival, and I had all my artwork set up. I went to the bathroom so my husband and my children were running our booth. It turned out my mother was there, and she liked my artwork. My husband had texted me and told me my mom was looking at my artwork, but I had left my phone in my bag, so I didn't get it. I walked back as she was paying for one of my pieces. She didn't really recognize me at first. My physical appearance had changed a lot. I am at a healthy weight, I've colored my hair, and I just have a completely different style and look, especially if you compare it to when I was younger and on illegal substances. I knew who she was though, and was a little uncomfortable, but still spoke to her about the piece. It wasn't until my dad walked up that anybody recognized me. My parents were very weird about it. Kind of emotional and like I was a long-lost child or something. It was weird because they were the ones who left me. They were very surprised that I'm married and have children and now want to be grandparents suddenly. They were also very friendly and warm to my husband. I don't really understand that either because they were pretty prejudiced against my husband for being black. My children are also mixed, so this response from them was genuinely very surprising. I want to believe they are better people now than what they used to be, but I don't want my children to feel the way I felt with them. I don't want my children to be subjected to their religious crap either. I also don't want my family to deal with their prejudice ideologies. They have been very nice to me and seem genuinely interested in having a new relationship, but I am very hesitant. I am in a good place and I'm finally okay. I am happy. I don't want to feel the way I used to feel as a kid. They seem to be genuinely wanting to be a part of my family life, and I want to believe they're better, but I just don't know what to do. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? I think if there's one thing that this person can hang on to the most, it's the fact that they are an independent adult and they can set boundaries and say whatever they want. Nothing will change the way that they treated them as a child. That is trauma they will have to carry with them for the rest of their lives. So I don't blame them for a second for saying, hey, I don't know if I want you in my life. It sounds like it might be the case where the parents don't totally get the way they treated their kid. And maybe from their perspective, they see it as their kid just kind of ran off and did their own thing and then they finally found him after 6 years. But I think if you want to get anywhere with them, even if you want them in your life, even to the smallest degree, they first and foremost need to understand completely and fully with all the raw details exactly how they made you feel as a kid. And if they can stomach that and they can accept that what they did was wrong and find some semblance of apologies and reconciliation on their part, then maybe, just maybe, you can let them into your life. But to be completely honest, based on what you're describing and some of their preconceived notions, I would be very hesitant to let those people back in my life. This is your life now. You finally found happiness. You found someone you care about, and you have 2 beautiful children that you love. You have a hobby that you're wonderfully involved in, and you're happy. And I don't think you have any obligation to bring these people back into your life who made you significantly unhappy. Maybe on the other end of this is some kind of awakening for them where they've said, hey, we were terrible people and we need to do better. But you're not obligated to try and facilitate that moment of healing for them. You genuinely, in my opinion, do not need to facilitate their recovery and their semblance of finding forgiveness. That's on them. Because in my opinion, they've done a lot of damage to you and you spent 6 years in therapy and in rehab trying to find some solutions. And these are solutions to problems that they caused, by the way. I don't know, maybe I sound heartless, maybe I sound very unforgiving, but I personally don't have a lot of patience for people who are abusive. So in my opinion, proceed with caution if you do, but I don't blame you if you don't. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. What would you do if you were in their situation? A psychotic Karen almost runs over a kid at a skate park. So some backstory. I wasn't really the type of person to go out, especially on school days, and I had friends who were the exact opposite of me. So once the school day ended, my friends said that they were going to the local skate park. So I just said no, but for some reason they guilt tripped me and I went with them anyways. By then it was already 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening and the sun was setting. Mind you, we were there at about 4 o'clock. Nothing out of the ordinary happened, but today was a very busy day for the skate park, considering it wasn't even a Friday, a Saturday, or a Sunday when it's the most busiest. But then at around 6:30 p.m., we hear what sounds like a grown woman shouting. Now, my neighborhood doesn't have many entitled parents, but today was an unfortunate day and there was an entitled Karen with her kids near the skate park. Me and my friends approached the place where the screaming seems to come from, and it looks like a kid was getting yelled at by this Karen. She was there with her 2 kids. Her oldest kid was about 12 years old, and the younger one looked about 7 or 8. So we asked the kid who's getting yelled at, who's also a skater, what happened, and he said he tried doing a kickflip off of some stairs and almost hit her. After he told us what happened, he tried to approach this insane Karen to apologize like any normal person, but the Karen wasn't listening, and she ignored this kid's multiple attempts just to apologize. So she ended up saying, "Come on, kids, let's drop you back home. I don't want to be involved in this." After hearing that, the kid stopped trying to apologize and just kept on skating. After 30 minutes or so, we see the woman in her car, and the kid who almost hit her goes to apologize one last time. He was in front of the car, approaching closer and closer to apologize even more before this psychotic Karen drives forward really quickly with intents to run over the kid. Luckily, he fell out of the way and was able to dodge this oncoming car, but in the process, he fell to the ground. As her car moved past the kid and us, she seemed to be cussing at us as if we did something in the first place, but we're just standing by watching this kid on the ground. In the end though, I never really did see them come back to the skate park, and thankfully for all of us, that's probably a really good thing. There's always been, ever since I was a kid, such a war on skaters. Like, for whatever reason, people really don't like people skateboarding. But then once you do find a place for skaters to go and participate in their sport, there's still these people who just hang around and get upset when they're trying to do tricks or flips or whatever. Like, if you go to a skate park, you have to expect that, hey, there's going to be people doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and you need to be on the lookout. Sometimes people collide with other people, sometimes people fall and skin a knee or break a bone. Like, that is a part of the sport, and you have to be ready for that. So it's really weird to me that this Karen just decided suddenly, man, a kid almost hit me with their skateboard while they're doing a kickflip. I'm going to get upset irrationally. Like, this is not some kind of safety-proof environment. You're going to get hurt if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're standing in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, just Google any situation where there's a bunch of kids on razor scooters strolling through a skate park and some of them get collided and hit. Like, you got to be careful. And the fact that this lady tried to run this kid over with her car after he tried to apologize, saying, hey, really sorry you weren't paying attention and I almost hit you with a skateboard. Which, by the way, he didn't. It'd be completely different if he did hit her with a skateboard by accident. Then she might be a little bit more justified to pull her kids out of the skate park and never go back and be upset. But it's the fact that, to me, nobody got hurt, nobody got injured except for the kid that you almost hit with a car and he ended up falling to the ground. That's the only person that got hurt in this situation, all because you overreacted. So thankfully, this Karen's never going back to that skate park, and these kids are much better off because of that. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Click the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for trying to call out my mom for trying to gaslight me? Where do I even start with this? So my mom is the type of person who believes she is always right and never admits when she is wrong or owns up to her wrongdoings. It's her way or the highway. So I am 27 years old, and I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome on the autism spectrum at around 10 to 11 years of age. This means that I suffer from depression, ADHD, anxiety attacks, I'm uncomfortable with making eye contact with other people, and I am often very oblivious to social cues and sarcasm, and tend to take a lot of things concretely. My mom knows all of this about me and thinks she knows everything about what I go through, even though she herself isn't on the spectrum and is perfectly functioning. The blatant truth is she doesn't. It's obvious with her words and actions towards towards me that she knows nothing of the struggles I go through on a daily basis, which are getting worse over time, but no one can change her mind because she's always right. To cut to the main issue, I guess, I don't get the emotional support I need in this household, and I've had to live my life suffering in silence because mental health is so easy to solve if you just do this, this, and this, yada, yada, yada. But in reality, that's just not how mental health works. It can't just be solved by going around pretending you're fine all the time. Whenever I try to call her out on this, she tells me, "You're refusing to get help," and switches it on to me, like it's my fault that I'm suffering from a condition I was born with that wires my brain differently from most people. But me being unable to argue because I can't think of arguments on the spot, just let it go to fester and build within me until I bring it up again. I have a therapist now that my mom helped me find through a list of therapists on a website, and I picked the one whose bios best suited me. So I saw her every 2 weeks, every week now, over the internet, and the things I told her about my mom had her agreeing that my mom is gaslighting me and has been for a very long time. I finally had the confirmation and support of a therapist who can help me work out my issues and tell me things that I've been desperately needing to hear for my emotional neglect all these years. I was getting sick of my mom telling me to get a job even though I told her I'm not ready for another job because my stress threshold is very little and I'll end up having a meltdown after a while when the stress gets to me. But she just doesn't want to hear it because even though she knows the issues I struggle with, she still thinks I can be a fully functioning member of society. So again, she flips it all on me for my emotional issues instead of ever owning up to the anxiety attacks and depression she has caused me and just sweeps it all under the rug. One day I got fed up with her after she sent me into my lowest point I've ever gotten into, especially when it comes to my mental health. So I call her out saying that she's been gaslighting me and never taking my mental health seriously, and that even my therapist agrees that she's gaslighting. After I said this, she was angry. She immediately started asking my therapist's contact information, but I refused to give it to her and I just walked away upstairs. When my next therapist appointment came around a few days later, my therapist let me know that she received a mile-long email from my mom. I was shocked. My mom went and sent a mile-long email to my therapist behind my back, like she was trying to back herself up or something. My therapist, since I'm under privacy, asked me if she should read it or not, but I was so upset by this and my therapist accepted my request to not read it and to just get rid of it. This was a complete violation of my privacy, and my mom has no right to butt in and complain to my therapist, which under privacy laws has no obligation or right to respond to her or even her messages. This completely shattered what little trust I had in my mom already. So am I the jerk for calling my mom out for her gaslighting me my whole life, or should I have just stayed quiet about it so my mom wouldn't take things out on my therapist? To this day, I have no idea what was on that email, nor do I want to know, and I plan on keeping it that way for my own sake. I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think the way your mom is treating you is absolutely unacceptable. I think you did the best job you possibly could in articulating how bad that they were being, and there is no reason for you to feel any kind of way other than proud that you stood up for yourself. Because that's a big deal. That's a really big step for you. You've grown up with this anxiety and depression surrounding your mom and the way she's treated you about your mental health. And from what you're describing, this was really the first time you stood up to her and told her to stop it. And just like most people, when they gaslight you, they don't like being told that they're gaslighting. It really is unfortunate that this is the way she's acting, but it's proof enough that she's in the wrong. She sent an incredibly long email to your therapist, violating any semblance of trust or any kind of relationship that you would have had or do have with your mom. I think actions speak a lot louder than words in this kind of situation. And if anything, that can be a really big, small victory for you in proving your point that yes, she's been treating you poorly your whole life, and yes, she has been gaslighting you. But you are not the jerk. You did the right thing in my opinion, and eventually you have to just start standing up for yourself. Because if not now, when? If you don't say something now, if you don't try and formulate a plan to set boundaries and to distance yourself away from these emotionally abusive people, you are only allowing them to have more of a foothold in your life. I think making these kind of decisions is really important to make with your therapist because they can help you navigate it. But I think on the fly where you reacted emotionally and the way that you told her straight up what was going on was a good step in the right direction. But hopefully this all gets worked out. Hopefully in the ideal world, your mom sees the error of her ways and she's able to improve her behavior and help you get better, because having a circle of support in a situation like this is super important. And it sounds like you could really use the love and attention right now. An entitled Karen at the store tried to get the last almond butter from us for her kid, but I wasn't having it. I cannot believe the audacity of some parents. So me and my 13-year-old sister sister walked to the store yesterday. We picked up some chips and some soda for ourselves. My mom calls and asks if we pick up a healthy snack for her. My mom is currently doing this keto diet to improve her health and to avoid pre-diabetes. Me and my sister go and find her an organic, chocolate, sugar-free almond butter. It was the last one on the shelf. That's when the Karen steps in. Some entitled Karen with a 5-year-old walks up behind us and says, "He really likes almond butter. Can you make his day and let him have this last one, please? He's growing and he needs good nutrition." Me and my sister look at each other in disbelief. I say, sorry, no, we took it first. This entitled Karen then turns to her kid and tells him that we won't give it up. This kid literally starts screaming and crying as this Karen looks at us and calls us selfish and entitled teenagers, which is ironic based on how she's acting. But honestly, Karen, I'm not giving up healthy food for my mother just because your ugly kid needs nutrition to grow. Get lost. It's crazy how these types of people, these entitled Karens, will go to such lengths just to guilt trip people to get what they want. Like, it's just completely unfair. It's disappointing and it's just disgusting behavior. And you can bet that this behavior and the way this kid freaked out is probably a learned behavior from the mother. Like, what rational parent would allow their kid to just start freaking out in the store just because they're not getting what they want? If I tried that in public, my parents would have punished me and put me in my place. And that would have been that. But to turn to your kid just to intentionally antagonize them so that they can get upset so you can then try to get your way is just really gross and toxic. That kid's gonna grow up and be very spoiled and be very messed up. And that's a terrible thing to do to a child. Like, if anything, this could have been a teachable moment to show to your child that sometimes you don't always get what you want. And that's okay. You just move forward and you try again next time. But freaking out because you're not getting the next almond butter or whatever it is not the answer, and it will not result in good results. It will only make people think less of you and look down on you. Overall though, I'm glad that these kids decided to stick one to this Karen and not cave to their annoying, spoiled little gremlin child. My younger brother thinks he is entitled to live with me forever. So a little bit of backstory. I'm a 33-year-old female, and I've been helping out my younger brother James, who's 30 years old, for the past 6 years. He didn't have enough money for an apartment to rent on his own, and he didn't feel comfortable roommating with a stranger. So we split my 2-bedroom apartment, and it really has helped me save so that I can buy my own place soon enough. But he went through many struggles. James lost his full-time job, got really out of shape from just sitting on his computer all day, and thanks to the pandemic and the government paying him to sit at home for over half a year, he now has a lot of trouble keeping a job and is just about broke. He is also the worst roommate ever. He never cleans up or helps around the house at all, and he has been very short or late with rent several times this year. And to be honest, I'm kind of getting fed up. I'm getting married come the new year, and I feel it is time we go our separate ways. When I told him I was getting married and moving out eventually, he said, "I would rather keep our situation and just move with you and split the rent 3 ways. I told him no. Not only do I not want to live with him anymore, but he is untrustworthy with rent, and we don't want to be stuck with a more expensive place if he can't afford his part." He got mad at that and now is being all huffy. Our mom claims he ranted to her about it, saying that if I didn't take him with me that he would just be homeless. Mom doesn't want him moving back to her place either, but asked if I could take him with me, since she doesn't want him to be homeless either. And I'm like, what is going on? I am not his keeper. It's his own fault for his situation, and I have been forgiving. I could have kicked him out for all the times he was late on rent, and our own mom won't take him back, but she is asking me and my fiance to look after him instead? How stupid is that? He is 30 years old, not a child, and I am not his mother. I am done looking after him as if he is my responsibility. I don't get how he thinks it's rational to demand I bring him with me when I'm getting married and wanting to start my own life. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? 6 years is a long time for a sibling to live with you with not much going on. The fact that this guy has lost his job and has not found any motivation to make his rent on time or to be able to pay for things or to be a good roommate is more than enough reason for you to decide, hey, I don't want them in my life. And you're getting married. There's no way that would work in my mind. But maybe other people in the past in some other situation has made this type of thing work, but from the sounds of it, her brother is just simply not a good roommate. And she's got it right. She is not responsible for him getting by. He is 30 years old. It's time to step up and be an adult. Instead, he's sitting around, he's letting the government pay for his check every day, and he's not able to hold a job. Here's a news newsflash for you. If you don't enjoy your job, congratulations, a lot of people don't enjoy the job they're working at. But they work at that job so they can then get in the job that they do enjoy. And then you're just going to thrive. But you have to start somewhere. You can't just sit around and expect somebody else to take care of you. You have to take the initiative and get things going. Otherwise, you will never be independent. So overall, I think it's time to cut ties with your brother and move on and get married and have a happy life without him. It will be better off for you, and I think it'll be better off for your brother as well. Today, I messed up by pretending to throw a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at my son. This happened yesterday at around 2:00 p.m. Sunday afternoon, and the family was sitting around the living room. My 8-year-old son was hungry, so I offered to grab him an Uncrustable. For the uninitiated, these are prepackaged peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the shape of a circle with the crust removed. We keep a box of them in the freezer for the occasional school lunch. Why the freezer, you ask? Because we put them in the kids' lunch boxes in the morning, and they serve as a slight ice pack to keep everything cool until lunch. Because kids are weird though, they actually like them frozen sometimes and will bite or chew on them when they get them. Thus, he was happy to be offered one so freely when they are normally a treat. I am a goofy dad with my kids, so I like to play lots of little jokes on them. I like being silly. It's fun. I walk back into the room and do a big dramatic baseball pitcher wind up, like I'm going to throw the sandwich right at him. When it gets time to release the sandwich, I spin around and I don't throw it. I do it all big and over the top. You probably think you know what's coming next, but nope. My performance goes off without a hitch. I do it a second time and the same result. My son flinches and then laughs. After the second one, I come closer to him, toss it in his lap, and then I make probably my real mistake. I give my son a little tickle, and he is very ticklish. And I generally know that when I tickle him, he has a certain level of freedom to retaliate against me. He also has a tendency towards disproportionate responses and not thinking about his actions, as we'll soon see. I turn to walk away, and after 2 steps, my son yells, "Dad!" And I turn back as I take the next step. When I do, he throws the frozen hockey puck of a sandwich at me as hard as he can, and it hits me right in the eye. I didn't have any time to react. It hit me right as I was turning. I have been punched in the face before, but not since high school. But this was worse. Way worse. It dropped me hard. I'm not some super tough guy, but I've always been a little feisty. I have never had anything drop me like this before. Everyone thought I was being silly, as I would normally be. It was a few seconds later that they realized I was actually in serious pain. My son comes running to me crying, and it is a good 20 to 30 seconds before I could even respond with anything other than groans. After a few minutes of telling people to just give me a minute, I realized that I could open my eye and that it was still working. I have my wife bring me my son, who had fled to his room sobbing, thinking that he had unalived me, but she assured him that I'm okay. I got him calmed down and reassured that it was an accident, but this is why I talk to him about thinking before he acts. I then make a few jokes, which finally makes him realize that I'm really okay. It's been about 21 hours and I still have a headache, although not as bad as yesterday. What is worse today though is my black eye. Yes, I received a black eye from a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and hopefully that never happens again. This is a really funny story because my dad would pull little pranks like this on me all the time as a kid. He would take a stack of empty cartons of eggs, hand it to me, and then pretend to drop it all of a sudden, and me being a child would think, oh no, I just broke all of the eggs. But in reality, the cartons were empty and there was nothing that was going to go wrong. So I can totally see this dad pretending to throw a peanut butter sandwich at his son. And I can also completely understand that his son would then throw the peanut butter sandwich back at his dad. I don't know what it is, but as a kid, you think that your dad is completely bulletproof and that he can handle just about anything. But this was probably one of the few instances where the son realized, oh, whoops, I actually hurt him. Overall, this is a really cute story and it looks like they had a lot of fun together. And thankfully, there was nothing wrong that actually happened to his eye, besides a few bruises that may just look like cool battle scars. My friend lied to me, telling me that his wife was no longer alive. I found out on accident from a friend and I don't know what to do. So my friend has been telling me this long, elaborate, very consistent, and very sad story since I have known him, that he married the love of his life at age 20 and she passed away 3 years later from cancer. Spoiler alert, he probably didn't actually marry her and she is actually quite alive. I did not ever question this story. It was always the same story until recently when he added to it just a little bit. Although sometimes he would talk weirdly about her, not in the same manner as someone who has had a loved one pass away, if that makes sense. And I did wonder a few times, did that happen? Or is he completely making this girl up? It turns out she is a real person, but they were only engaged, never married, and she is still alive. I found this out completely accidentally from his friend. He has been telling me this story for 6 to 7 years now, and I never looked into it or anything. How do I confront him about this? I feel like he isn't going to learn anything if I just ghost him and walk out of his life. He has reacted very badly to being ghosted in the past, and I just don't want to step into that. Apparently, he thinks it's okay to just make up stuff about real people, so who knows what he is saying about me to other people. I did try to confront him by questioning his timelines, and I was gonna be like, aha, when something different didn't match up. But he has had this story so well thought out and so carefully scripted that I literally got no openings to say that, hey, I know she's alive. He straight up said, I'm not telling you, when I asked what her last name was. So he clearly knows what information to leave out so I don't find out. I don't know if I should just be like, yo, your friend told me about her. You've been lying to me. She's not passed away. Or something like that, but what should I say, honestly? It's so awkward. I don't think I can really be friends with this guy anymore, and I deeply regret telling him anything about myself, especially since he decided to start adding that he got married to her on Halloween, a detail he never mentioned in all the years until just the other day. Never mentioned it before, even when I told him about my Halloween wedding to my ex. So he is clearly just taking pieces of other people's lies and crafting up a false narrative. What should I do? You need to drop this supposed friend like a ton of bricks. This person is crazy, or at least something is wrong in their head. It's one thing to over-exaggerate and to try and ham up a story where it's like bigger than it actually is. I think anybody can be like really guilty of that. But this person legitimately said that his former ex-fiancée passed away. And this person was never even their wife. They were just someone they were engaged with and then they broke it off. Like, that is seriously not okay to kind of make up that lie. For one, you need to absolutely come and approach him and be like, hey, I know you're lying. I would even try and see if the friend who dropped the knowledge on you can join in on this event, because this might be the only way for this person to stop lying to people. This reminds me of when I was in grade school and people would lie and be like, my dad works for Nintendo. No, he doesn't. He works at some desk job just like the rest of our dads. He hates his job and he wishes he had become a doctor. Don't we all? In all seriousness though, this guy is not someone you want to be friends with. This is just insane behavior, and you're right. Who knows what he's been saying about you behind your back? So pull him aside, preferably somewhere in public where a lot of people who will possibly know him will see what's going on, and then expose him for the liar that he is. This is not a lie that you can let slide, and it'll be especially more effective if that friend is with you and they can back you up and be like, yeah, no, you're lying. Because people like this are really dangerous if you really think about it, and no one should get away with lying about a wife that they never had just to get some weird kind of attention. My entitled mother tried to get between me and my fiancé because she supposedly didn't trust him. So this happened a few years ago, and while I feel bad about the way things played out, I wouldn't have it any other way. When I turned 20, I was diagnosed with severe depression, ADHD, anxiety, and bipolar, among other things, which explain everything as far as the way I always behaved as a kid. I was diagnosed after experiencing a large amount of severe, untriggered panic attacks that occurred for several hours at a time. As a result, I started reevaluating my life and realized that there was a lot wrong with my life, and that if I didn't make changes, I was likely going to end my life. Now, my mother loved my ex and believed that he was the only one God intended for me to be with. However, I ended up breaking up with him when I realized exactly how abusive he was physically and mentally, especially after realizing that my ex was having the doctor up my meds anytime he decided that the meds weren't helping, which actually led to me blacking out for hours, if not days at a time. In fact, at one point in time, I blacked out early in the day, and when I finally came to, I was barricaded in my room with all my meds spilled all over my bedspread. I also kept waking up with way too many scratches that couldn't possibly have been from my roommate's dog. Anyways, when I broke up with this toxic ex, I ended up staying with friends until I was able to explain my situation to my parents and convince them to let me stay until I was able to get my own place. Fast forward a month, and I was seeing the man who became my fiancé. For the record, my fiancé and his family are all Hispanic and mostly Catholic, while my family is white and Christian. Granted, we met through friends on a blind date, and my fiancé was always very civil and very polite, especially around my family. I was doing so much better and was starting to feel pretty comfortable with my life, and in the process of finding my own place. However, my mother was doing everything she could to make my life miserable. First of all, she claimed that since I didn't know my fiancé before meeting him on the blind date, I shouldn't trust him and should reconsider dating him. Then she claimed that my ex had been so kind to me, and she didn't know why I would ever leave him. Then she claimed that she and the family didn't know anything about the man, so I should be ashamed of myself for being an inconvenience to the family because I upset everyone apparently. When all that didn't work, my mother flat out told me that if I ever planned on getting married, I needed to make sure I saw the tough times through. It turns out that my mother had been in contact with my ex all along, and the two of them were trying to get me better so that I would come to my senses and get back together with my abusive ex. Of course, I made it very clear that I would never do that, but I was still upset when I found out all of this, so I spent the least amount of time at home as possible, if I could help it. After several months, my fiance admitted that he wanted to marry me one day, and my mother and father weren't allowing it. My fiance asked my father if he might marry me one day, and my father told him no because apparently he looked like the type that would beat a woman. My mother got wind of all of this and went off on me, telling me to consider the cultural differences and how the men usually treat their women. They even invited my fiance and his mother to my little sister's graduation party because they wanted to get to know them, only to treat my mother-in-law like charity trash and constantly talk garbage about the two of them to everyone else at the party. I was so furious that I immediately walked out of the party with both my fiance and his mother, apologizing profusely for my family's racist behavior the entire ride back to their house. But it didn't stop there. My parents convinced me to attend a Bible study in order to help my road to recovery or something like that, and I made the mistake of agreeing to go. One of the women at the Bible study pulled me aside and started asking me about my new relationship. My parents apparently told them that I was with an abusive man who was pulling me away from my family and that I needed someone to help convince me to leave him. This woman had a son about my age and even offered to set up a meeting between us. On my way out, I came across an old friend from high school who warned me that she heard my mother telling hers that she wanted to set me up with a God-fearing man and was looking for advice, as the same thing happened to my friend years ago. Apparently, my friend was dating a guy her family didn't like, and her family came between them and made her marry someone they approved of. This was very shocking to me because I was looking at my future if I let this happen. So I never went back to that Bible study again, and I stopped going to church as a result. To this day, my family still tries getting between me and my fiance, but despite it all, my fiance and I are going to get married next summer, and there's nothing my mother or anyone else in my family can do about it. This is a crazy story. I cannot believe that the mom and the dad are acting like this towards this new guy in her life. She is clearly happy. She wants to get married, and her previous boyfriend was incredibly abusive. I can't believe that the mom tried to actively get her daughter to go back to her abuser as if that was going to be better. And all of this is just laced with such subtle racism, it's not even funny. The fact that this man that she's marrying is Hispanic and Catholic is for some reason a deal breaker for her parents. Not to mention the fact that they have actively tried to push him away from her and done everything they can, from going behind her back to trying to set her up with other people over and over again, all for the sake of them trying to mold her future marriage to what they want, which is absolutely insane. You absolutely can't treat someone like that and then expect them to want anything to do with you. It is fantastic to see that they're sticking together and they're not going to let these terrible people tear them apart. And I honestly wish this woman and her fiance the best of luck in moving forward with their life without their entitled, disgusting parents involved to try and ruin it. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not wanting to include my dad in my life? So long story short, my dad and I have never had the best relationship, to the point where we've had physical fights, and I've been kicked out by him, and I've ran away many times as well because of this. My mom passed away in March of 2021, so she's not there to step in. After her passing, we were all grieving, differently of course. I was more full of anger and depression, and he seemed to want more family time. I tried to spend time with my family and also with him, which was really hard to do. He has closed fist punched me before, kicked me in the ribs right before a soccer game, and has generally been very abusive to me physically in many different ways. But him and my sister have abused me so much more mentally than anything. Whenever we go traveling as a family, it's like me and my little sister aren't there. We do what my older sister says all the time. They call me names, make me feel like my job and problems don't matter as much as theirs. And when we're in a good spot or in therapy, they ask me what they do that bothers me or triggers me and what they can do to change. But when I tell them, they take no accountability for it, and it's either my fault or it's my problem that it bothers me and triggers me. My dad also makes me feel like I'm his slave, and if I don't listen to him and do things exactly the way he wants me to do it, he will punish me. I bought my car a few months ago, and I don't have my license at the moment because there were some issues when it came to me getting my driver's education and such. So I just started taking driver school 2 weeks ago. Sometimes when I don't have a ride to work, or I'm hungry, or I'm low on groceries, I go buy some groceries or food, and he gets mad because I have have to drive his car. All of this to the point where he has threatened to sell my car. I understand his frustration, which is why I stopped driving his car, but my issue with him saying he'll sell my car is the fact that he didn't put 1 penny into my car. Even when I asked him for help to buy my car, he said no. Fast forward to today and the issues I'm currently dealing with. I have a girlfriend, a better paying job, and I'm back into soccer after not playing for 2 years. He told my older sister that he would take an extra shift because me and my sister are always gone or busy, and so it's pointless to be at home doing nothing. My sister tried talking me into spending time with him, but no matter how much I think about it, I can't get myself to do it. He has never taken accountability for all the pain and damage he has caused me, which has resulted in me distancing myself from him. But now it's like he's trying to act like he's the victim. Should I forgive him and move on, or am I in the right to feel this way? Am I the jerk? I'm really sorry that you have such an abusive father, but no, you're not the jerk in this situation. I'm sure there's things that you could work on that could probably be fixed and make things amicable for both of you, but the fact that he has physically assaulted you, injured you, and hurt you is unacceptable. That is actual abuse, and that is not a good parent. I understand that your mom passed away and everybody grieves in different ways, but to hit your own child, regardless of age, is not okay. I really hope you find a way out of that living situation and you're able to find a home where you can be loved, appreciated, and looked after, because the way your dad and your older sister are acting is completely unacceptable. You shouldn't have to live in an environment where you feel threatened and in danger all the time. And sure, right now you might not be able to get out of that, but at least now you can work towards getting that kind of future. And you can at least promise yourself that when you decide, if you ever do decide to have kids, that you will never treat them the way your father treated you. My entitled family friend won't move out because apparently it doesn't work with her timeline. I asked my family friend if she wanted to move into my new place with me. She said yes, under the condition that rent was low, given she was saving for her own place. To me, this was a win-win. I would have someone with me while I settle in, and she would be able to move out sooner while paying just $300 a month for a nice room and a private shower. A fantastic deal if you ask me. A year goes past and I'm ready to live alone, but hear no news on her plans to get a new place. 6 more months pass and I ask her what her plans are. We're not super compatible roommates, as my friend doesn't like how much time I spend at work or in my room with the door closed, which she sees as a personal attack for some reason. I genuinely have it closed because I'm typically making out with my boyfriend, or my room is a mess and I don't want anyone to see it. She doesn't like that I don't hang out with her friends when they come over. I would tend to chat for a bit, then carry on with my day, but she wanted me to stay with them the whole visit. I suggested that if she's not happy with the way I live, it may be best for her to move out, but she tells me that moving back home is a step backward and that she'll tolerate me being out or me closing my bedroom door while she waits to get her own place. She also reveals that she could have gotten her own place a while ago, but chose to stop saving when she moved to mine. I made it clear that I'm not comfortable with our dynamic, but she tells me we'll have to work out a way to live amicably, as she doesn't know when she'll be ready to move out. I say she can stay for 5 more months and longer if she really needs to, and in return I get a no thank you, just eye rolls and sighs. It's frustrating because I feel so uncomfortable and powerless in my own home, and a part of me thinks she's just staying out of pettiness because she must feel uncomfortable too. I have the option to evict on a 30-day notice, but forcing her to leave like that will only make things worse. What should I do? There's 2 options here, and it's something my dad used to say when I was a kid. We can either do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. The easy way is you helping her realize that this is not her place and she does not own it. That way she can try and start to find her own place to live. The hard way is you handing her an eviction notice. Unfortunately, she does not decide when and where and how she moves in and out of that place. You do. So first and foremost, she needs to get that through her head. You set the ground rules, you set the rules of engagement for this house, not her. And I get that she was a friend, and I get that this is not really an amicable relationship. And it is incredibly weird that this lady thinks that having your door closed is somehow a personal attack on her. I mean, what is that all about? Overall, you just need to have an honest conversation with her and say, hey, it's time for you to get going. You could even start getting petty by changing the Wi-Fi password if you really wanted to get under her skin. But overall, she's not entitled to your house, and what you say really can go. So you just gotta decide how you'd like to handle this, to be honest. My fiance proposed to me, but I'm so disappointed on how they did it. I feel like such a terrible human being for even thinking this way, because eventually it's all about who you're with. I love my fiance. I love him so much. We've been together for 2 years, and it's been the best 2 years of my life. I always made it clear that I wanted the proposal photographed or on video. It doesn't mean we hire a photographer. It could literally just be on a phone, but I want it documented so I can look back on it. It's a huge step in in our relationship and a chapter of my life being opened. I also told him about what I wanted. I had this trip planned to fly all my cousins to the house and him surprising me with them after the proposal at a special spot. This was going to be months down the line in Honolulu, where I grew up. He told me this after he actually proposed. The proposal was on the couch in the living room. The ring and the box it came in was so incredibly beautiful, and I could tell it was so thought out. He didn't say anything other than asking if I wanted to marry him. I guess I just had way too high of expectations. It was still a special moment, and my favorite part was FaceTiming my family and friends and telling them about how I was getting married. But now I hate when people ask, oh, how did he do it? And now I have to tell the real story. Again, I love my fiance to death, and I'm excited about getting married and spending the rest of my life with him. But I'm somehow just sad it wasn't what I always wanted. I'll never get this moment back, and I think sometimes it's because I'm going to be his second wife. He's already had the frills of being married. Maybe he just wanted to get it over with. If your proposal didn't go as planned, how did you deal with it? How did your fiance propose to you? I'm afraid to bring it up because it could really hurt his feelings. What should I do? I understand where you're coming from completely. Your significant other proposing to you to get married is a special moment in time, and it really is sweet that you had these big expectations of how you wanted it all to go down. You wanted it to be in Honolulu where you grew up. You wanted your family to be there. You wanted this to be a big spectacle that you could look back on and be proud of. And instead, in complete contrast, he proposed to you on the couch in a living room. And to answer your question, yeah, you set your sights very high, so I can completely understand your disappointment when it came crashing down to the ground. So in all actuality, I'm kind of with the original poster here. This was a really crappy way to propose to somebody. I mean, it'd be different if there was some kind of sentimental connection between them and a living room and a couch, but from the sounds of it, this lady just wanted to have some kind of spectacle, and it sounds like she communicated this to her future husband, but I don't think he quite caught on. And maybe it is because this is his second marriage that he didn't go all out, but I mean, come on, who wants to get engaged after sitting on their couch? Let's spice it up a little bit. So I understand where she's coming from, and I don't think she's overreacting, but that's just my opinion. Leave a comment down below. What would you do in a situation like this? And if you've been married, how did you get proposed to, or how did you propose to your significant other? My mom is trying to take over my engagement. I've been with my boyfriend for almost 4 years now. We're now financially secure and very happy. We've lived together for a year and plan to stay together, so he decided to bring up the idea of marriage. I was overjoyed and found out he's planning to propose in about 2 weeks with a ring we picked out together on a recent trip. We're both very excited and are working together on the details since we both have a pretty bad history of anxiety. He told our parents the plan, and that's where my mom steps in. I lived as a kind of dress-up doll for my mom my entire life. She's always dictated how my hair is cut, what I wear everywhere, how I talked and act around people. It goes as far as the fact that I'm not allowed to mention that I'm in therapy. I'm recently disabled as of 2019, and I'm not allowed to talk about it. She used to make me late for school in middle and high school if I came down without mascara on. She would put highlights in my hair while I was sick and asleep. I was still receiving a small allowance from them while I was in college to help, as I couldn't work at the time. That is still being held over my head to this day. For the past 2 years, I started doing my own hair how I want and dressing how I want when I'm not around her. Thankfully, we live in different cities. Until now, that's been a good balance. Unfortunately, I still have to plan my entire life around her schedule. I am always prepared with a big backpack to drive to help her when she's feeling like she needs to get out for a bit to go away from responsibilities at home. Her needs and wants have always come first because I feel horribly guilty when she's upset that they don't. Even when I do what she asked, I'm often insulted for the way I look or act anyways. She's been very clear in voicing her opinion that I'm apparently fat and that no one will like or respect me if I don't lose weight and straighten my hair. I knew she would want to be involved in the proposal, but I didn't know the extent she would go to. We will be hiking all weekend with our dog. She doesn't like that idea and is trying to find dresses and heels for me to wear. We will be in the mountains, which is one of my favorite places to be, but it's 2 to 3 hours from where my mom lives. She is asking my boyfriend to drive us both to her house for dinner that night and then to go back up to the mountain to finish our weekend plans. I want to spend the weekend together before jumping into the crowd of family, but she wants to throw a big engagement party that she would dress and script for all of us. It would be a nice gesture if it didn't derail all of our plans plans, and if I knew it wouldn't just be about her. For example, my graduation party only involved her friends and myself walking around the entire time, and honestly, I'm expecting this to be the exact same way. I want to set a boundary, but I don't know how. I'm terrified of the thought of going dress shopping with her. I want to be happy about this, but I'm dreading another weekend where I'm supposed to be having fun walking on eggshells with her around. What do I do? This is a perfect chance for you to stand up for yourself and tell your mom exactly what you and your future fiance want to do. And I know it's scary and I know it's going to be stressful, but now is the time to set boundaries for what she can expect when you're married. Because guess what? She is not going to decide what you can and can't do with your marriage. Setting a boundary now and setting expectations for when you're married and away from her is going to be a very serious thing that you need to take into account. It'll be very unfair if once you get married, your mom still tries to butt in and try and control your marriage, because that's absolutely not going to happen. It simply can't. It is seriously disappointing that your mom has dictated what you can and can't do throughout the entirety of your life. But now's the time to step up and say enough is enough. This is what I want to do. It doesn't mean you have to shut her out completely in the planning process, but you need to make it very clear that this is going to be a collaborative effort, that what she says does not go in this situation. And I don't think you should feel guilty about setting boundaries. If she gets upset over this, that's on her, because if you don't set up expectations now of what can and can't happen in your marriage, then there's a serious chance that she could walk all over you years down the road, and you definitely don't want that. My family is trying to get back into my life after I cut them off with the expectation that they would never contact me again. I moved out in late December 2021, and for my emotional health, I cut off contact with my family. I cut off my parents due to them turning into religious fanatics and trying to push their beliefs onto me. And the last straw was when they caused an emotional panic attack and an anxiety attack event where they tried to throw out some stuff that my late older brother left for me to always remember him by. And their excuse at the time for throwing out these belongings was that it's of the devil, or it's time to let the dead be dead. Mind you, this was their oldest son we are talking about, and they are acting as if he was the worst person on the earth, which he wasn't, by the way. I even cut off my younger brother due to him becoming verbally and emotionally abusive. The only one with who I had contact with was my sister-in-law, for the sake of my nephew, and she begged me to get help since she saw that I looked affected. I took her advice and decided to attend therapy for a few sessions. I noticed how toxic my family was and even ignored all the red flags. Everything was going great until I got a WhatsApp notification from a group that was created. It was my parents and younger brother telling me that 5 months were enough and that no contact had to end, and that they had to do it because they wanted to reconcile and be a family and try and keep the peace. I read the message many times and answered back saying that while I love them and there's no hate in my heart, I can't go back in contact with people that damage my emotional health for them to feel better about themselves, and that I am not willing to play happy family, and that my emotional health is much more important than anything. Before any of them could reply, I got out of the group chat and I blocked all of their numbers. My friends, family, my mom's coworkers, and my boyfriend have said that I am brave for doing this and that I should always put myself first and not let anyone walk over me. And I can honestly say it is good to finally feel free. Good for this person for standing up for themselves. They got out of a toxic situation and have now moved on with their lives. It's a shame that these family members decided to be so toxic that led to this situation in general. They tried to drive this person away and they really were not taking their health seriously. And personally, I don't see it as an irrational response to decide to still cut these people off even though they're trying to make the peace and do better. Like, personally, congratulations. Do what you need to do to feel better about yourself, but that does not involve me. I do not need to be dragged back into your life just so I can get treated like garbage again. That is not what's going to happen. So they did the right thing by sticking to their values and choosing to stay away from this toxic, damaging family, because they can do so much better. My brother-in-law disrespects my wife and my son and gets scared and cries to his parents when I correct him. So my brother-in-law to this day still lives with my in-laws, and he's in his early 30s. From what my wife's told me, I've seen enough evidence to affirm her statements. They've spoiled him rotten his entire life. This guy could burn water, he's so inept. He eats nothing but garbage food and is horrendously overweight. He doesn't have a job and actively refuses to get one unless you're doing all the legwork for him. He gets to go out to the Disney and Universal parks all day and throws a tantrum anytime he's asked to do any kind of chores. And these are just a few of the issues I have with him, just to name a couple. He's also super creepy towards kids, and given a history that's not really mine to explain, but you can guess, that's grounds enough for me to not want him to be within a mile of my family. He still demands demands their respect because apparently he's an adult and he's their uncle, so they have to respect him. But I have to put up with him because I try not to rock the boat as much as possible. My wife's relationship with her parents is rocky enough as it is. A real Cinderella story, if you know what I mean. We got married in mid-2015, and her parents invited themselves to our place to see our new house. Of course, this weird brother-in-law had to come with them. And when he came in, he was already stuffing his face with what little snack foods we had in the house. And he didn't ask to do so, to my recollection, because apparently we're family and families share whatever they have when they come and visit, or some kind of tripe like that. And not long after that, he starts berating and bullying my 10-year-old son, a grown man bullying a barely double-digit age kid by name-calling them. I'm still new to the step-parent / new husband role, and I don't want to overstep, so I let my wife start to handle this. She asked him to stop as it's upsetting our son. He does for a little bit, but goes right back to it a few minutes later. Once again, my wife asks him to knock it off and that this behavior won't be tolerated in our home, and he starts having another of his ungodly tantrums. As soon as, well, mom says, comes out of his mouth, I put my foot down both literally and figuratively. I do not tolerate any disrespect towards my wife. Strangers, kids, or family be damned. The new house is mostly wood flooring on the first floor, and my voice already carries pretty well, so the entire house goes silent when I spoke up and said, "Is this her house? Is this your house? No? Then shut up when the people whose house you're in tell you to knock something off." This terrible brother-in-law is just standing there looking like some flabby fish out of water, with an open mouth and wide-eyed terror that someone had dared to correct him for probably the first time in his life. He then ran upstairs and cried to his mother about how I was so aggressive and scary towards him, and how he didn't feel welcome in this home anymore. Gee, I wonder why. My father-in-law pulled my wife aside and demanded something be done about my behavior, because apparently that's no way for family to behave towards one another. She told me all of this, and to this day, I still don't apologize for anything they deem as rude or unseemly, because that one instance of their 6-foot sack of garbage behavior tells me they have no room to criticize anyone on parenting or general behavior in any way, shape, or form. Another reason he may not like me would probably be because I embarrassed him like crazy for acting like a Nimrod while we were on vacation. For context, we were staying at a hotel her parents had booked with their points, and I was on crutches at the time for a broken foot. This man-child had my, at the time, I want to say around 8-year-old daughter up in the air, spinning her around, standing immediately next to a pool. Obviously, I could not ambulate fast enough to intercede physically, so I had to call out across the courtyard saying, "Hey, put her down now," which drew everyone's attention to this idiot very quickly. I finally hobble over to him, and he's looking all kinds of indignant. He asks how dare I interrupt his time with his niece, and I tell him, "Because you're putting her life in danger, you colossal moron. You are not even a foot from the side of the pool. What on God's green earth made you think that this was an okay idea?" He tried to say, "Well, I'm her uncle." And I say, "Well, I'm her father," and I say, "Put her down now." Now, he and I had to get into a hard staring match at this point, and he thinks he's gonna win because I'm on crutches, and he's already naturally taller than me at around 6 foot. I, however, was a hard-charging Lance Corporal at the time, and did not fear man, beast, or God, let alone this fat sack of excuse of humanity. He broke first and stormed off to go tell his parents what happened. They tried to have a conversation with me, trying to explain that what I did was apparently inappropriate, and I just had to balk at them and ask them how they could condone the blatant endangerment of their granddaughter by this buffoon. They had nothing else to say, and to this day, I still don't and won't trust that weirdo. That is so unacceptable for this grown adult to act that way towards this guy's kids. I would not want my kids anywhere near him either. This man is 30 years old and he still lives with his parents. This isn't even some kind of like extenuating circumstance where they're in between jobs or they're in between living situations. This just sounds like a spoiled brat who never grew up, and their parents did nothing to try and harbor any sense of independence. This is the kind of person who needs to have a reality check, and a reality check fast. This guy would name call one of their kids and was putting their other kid in danger by spinning next to a pool. Like, you don't do that. You do not mess with other people's kids. That is a hard line in my opinion. You want to hold someone else's kids, you go up to the parents and you ask, "Hey, can I pick your kid up?" Someone else's kid is asking for candy or some kind of food from you. You have to ask the parents if they could even have that. You are their uncle. You are a relative at best. You do not run that kid's life. You are not in charge of them. Anything they can or would do goes through the parents first. In my opinion, it is a complete violation of trust to touch, grab, pick up, up or do anything with someone else's kid without first asking the adult in charge, especially if they're children. I mean, how weird and creepy can you possibly get? You don't touch other people's kids without talking to the parents first. I don't blame this guy at all for the way he reacted, and personally, if I was in his shoes, I probably would have gone a lot further than just yell at him and get in his face. I personally don't have a lot of patience for people who act like this and put other kids in danger by doing things that are stupid or somehow making them uncomfortable. So good on this dad for stepping up and doing exactly what needs to be done, because this behavior is completely unacceptable. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for putting my foot down and trying to get my ex-boyfriend to get all of his belongings out of my house? I was seeing a guy for approximately 6 months before his lease was up where he was living. I had recently moved into my own place and had 3 spare bedrooms. So he asked if he could store some of his stuff in these bedrooms for a few months. I said sure, because I liked him, and we had seen each other 4 or 5 times a week, and we were staying at each other's place regularly, so I felt totally comfortable with that. Once all of his stuff was in the house, he then asked if he could live there too. So I agreed. We liked each other and we trusted each other, so I said, why not? Over the course of 3 to 4 months, we continued going out regularly and building a relationship together. I even helped him with going through all the paperwork for building a house, and he signed all the contracts. As a result of him going through this process, I was paying for any date nights, etc., because his finances were under a microscope during this process. We were coming up to about 10 months together, and he mentioned he was starting to talk to his ex-girlfriend. I didn't think much of it, nothing really changed between us, and honestly, I trusted him. After about 3 weeks, he then says his mom was wanting him to move back in with her because she misses him. So he moved into his mom's house, and we continued to see each other and plan things, including movie nights and all this other stuff involving his mom. Eventually, things started to change drastically as he began to get distant, and he just stopped talking to me daily. Even though we still tried to meet up regularly, I could still tell something's changed. I attempted to express my opinions with him, just to put my mind at ease, but unfortunately, my concerns were absolutely validated, as he tells me that he has been dating me and the ex for the past few months. He has now since broken things off with me and is seeing his ex exclusively. But here's the kicker. All of his belongings were still being stored at my place. I questioned when his belongings were going to be taken out of my place, and all I got was, well, I'll go and get it soon. During this time, he's gotten things here and there, poked through a few boxes just to pick up a few things. But there are 2 bedrooms full of his stuff all the way up to the roof, and half of the carport has his stuff as well. I ask questions continuously for approximately 2 months and keep getting the same response that he'll get it soon enough. I then decide to put my foot down and give him the deadline, stating that it needs to be out of here before Christmas as my family's going to be staying over and I need my bedrooms back. He tries to beg and plead for me to keep it there since his mom place can't store all of his belongings and he has nowhere to store it. I just respond by saying you need to get it out by Christmas or it's going to go in the trash. I feel I have been more than accommodating, but at this point I feel like I'm getting taken advantage of. So I'm officially putting my foot down. So am I the jerk for doing this, or should I just let him keep his stuff at my house? You are not the jerk for deciding to put your foot down. This guy's stuff would have been out much sooner if it was up to me. He is absolutely using you. Him saying that there's no other place for him to store his stuff is absolute garbage. There are storage units that you can rent that, yeah, it's going to be expensive, but at the end of the day, that's not your problem. You are not running a storage unit. This is your home that he has invaded and put all of his stuff in. He needs to get it out. If anything, if he wants to keep it there longer, say, okay, you can keep it in my house, but it's going to cost you some money. That way you can kind of make some kind of profit off of it. But if he's really going to be unreasonable and say, no, please wait, I don't have anywhere to put it, I would take pictures of everything. I would then say that I'm having a garage sale, and then suddenly your problems are going to be solved. That or you can put it on the side of the road slowly but surely and get rid of it through the trash. This guy dumped you to go back with his ex. There's a good chance he was playing you the entire time. And now it seems like he thinks he has a free place to put his belongings. And honestly, they're not your belongings, but soon enough, if he doesn't get his act together and pick up his stuff, those precious belongings will become the property of the landfill. I just found out my boyfriend cheated on me, and I know he's going through a lot right now, so I'm not sure if I should break up with him. What should I do? So first, let me say that this is an absolute deal breaker for me. My boyfriend and I have talked about exclusivity several times, and I've made it clear that I don't want us hooking up with other people. We have been together for almost 3 years now. He is my first real relationship, to be honest. He has also claimed to be 100% honest with me no matter what, and to always take my feelings into consideration. There was a month during the pandemic when I told him it was fine for him to hook up with some specific friends that I knew, because we lived in different cities and I didn't mind back then. A month later, a mutual mutual friend of ours started flirting with me via chat. I told my boyfriend about it and he encouraged me to hook up with him. So I kept talking to the guy, trying to set up a day for us to hook up. Meanwhile, I was always showing my boyfriend screenshots of our conversation as I wanted to keep everything 100% honest. Well, apparently I was too comfortable chatting with that guy, and my boyfriend got super mad and jealous. So I called it off and asked him, my boyfriend, to be exclusive again. This was like in August of 2020, and ever since then we've been very open about our feelings. We've had our ups and downs, but we've still tried to keep things together. So today I was using his laptop and I found a video of him with another girl, if you know what I mean. I checked the video properties and found it had happened in August 2021. I had to go on a field trip for work on August 2021, and it was a horrible experience, and I'm really awkward and found it impossible to make a single friend during that trip. So I ate all my meals alone and was extremely depressed. I would cry to my boyfriend about this almost every night on the phone, and he would comfort me. The day that I was flying back home is the day he cheated on me. I feel betrayed and completely disrespected. And honestly, I don't think that's the only time that this happened. To make matters worse, my boyfriend struggles with general anxiety. It cripples him. Most of the time, he can't even go outside. Even random events will trigger him. Some events being times we've had fights and been close to breaking up. In those moments, he's gotten really upset. I love him and I know he loves me, and I depend on him. So it's a hard decision for me, but my mind is pretty much made up. I can't live a life with someone who's going to lie to me. I'm worried. However, breaking up right now could set him back on the progress he's made lately. He's had therapy and it really seems like he's figuring out his anxieties. I wonder if I should stay with him a little bit longer, but I don't know if my motivation for staying is helping him or just giving myself time to deal with the sadness that I'm feeling. I also don't know how harmful it can be to keep going with this relationship, knowing it's broken and I will definitely have to end it, either now or in a month or two. What should I do? Well, I mean, the original poster said it best. This is clearly a deal breaker. You made it clear that if they cheat, then you're out. So honestly, I think you should be out. And I really would not worry about his mental health in this situation. What he is dealing with is not your responsibility. I know that sounds harsh, but this man has crossed a line that you told him very clearly in the beginning that if you cross it, we're done. And in my opinion, I think it's better to stick to your own values than to try to bend to someone who's just dealing with some anxiety. He can continue to work through all that stuff by himself, because at the end of the day, he did this to you, not the other way around. He was not 100% honest with you like he said in the beginning of your relationship, and he went behind your back with another woman. So it's pretty obvious, in my opinion at least, that you should kick him to the curb because you can find someone so much better than this. Today I messed up by leaving my garage door open after trying to clean it out, and a local feral cat seized the opportunity and colonized my garage. My wife and I live in a rural town with a few stray cats that you'll see occasionally. We are personally cat people. We already had 2 strictly indoor cats, so when I saw them in the yard, I started feeding them. One of them, who we call Beauty, is an unfixed female who trusted us enough last year to have and raise a litter of kittens in my wife's potting shed. We had them vaccinated and fixed, and they keep the rabbits and squirrels out of the garden. The 2 indoor cats have access to our garage through a pet door. We keep the litter boxes out there to control the smell in the house. There's also a back door out of the garage to the backyard, which is normally closed and locked. This year, Beauty was pregnant again and had her litter sometime in mid-April. She showed up for food, but we saw no kittens anywhere. It has been a cold, wet spring, so we thought perhaps the litter had died wherever she may have had them. 2 weekends ago, I was getting our recycling together. I locked the pet door and opened the garage door to load my SUV up with our recycling. Beauty and some of the other outdoor cats were hanging around like they always do, but otherwise I didn't keep track of them. After about 10 minutes into my chore, I heard a high-pitched meowing from somewhere in the garage. I looked around and I saw Beauty licking a tiny kitten in the corner. Apparently, she had the litter and one survived. I went inside to tell my wife about it and then came back outside to continue working. A few minutes later, I heard another high-pitched mew. A second kitten had arrived. This time, I watched as Beauty went to an abandoned house about a block away, then went into a crawl space through a broken vent. A few minutes later, she emerged with another kitten and proceeded to drop it off in our garage. By the time I was ready to leave, she had retrieved 4 kittens, and my wife and I are trying to figure out what to do. We need to keep the back door of the garage open for Beauty and her kittens, but keep our indoor cats secure inside as well. We brought one of the litter boxes inside bed for the indoor cats, and I planned to stop at the hardware store so we could rig a way to keep the back door to the garage open. Just as I arrived at the store, I got a call. Beauty had dropped off a 5th kitten just as my wife was leaving for the day. By the time we both returned, we had 6 new kittens living in a corner of our garage, and my wife and I had some work to do to make sure they were safe and secure. It's been a week and a half since then, and we have the situation under control, and we have plans in place to get those kittens cared for as they grow. This includes getting Beauty fixed as soon as possible. We've personally had enough of these kittens. If it were me, I probably would not have fed the feral cats to begin with, because once you start feeding them, they really won't leave. And maybe I'm heartless, but I would not personally want to bring on more cats into my life just to try and accommodate them not having a home. Like, it's already a tragic situation as it is, and those cats really do deserve to be taken care of. But when you start feeding them, you are now taking that responsibility on yourself. The prime example is this cat by the name of Beauty suddenly having a litter inside your garage. I think it's great that the cat felt comfortable to do that in your garage and to bring her cats over to your house, but congratulations, you just suddenly inherited 7 new cats. 6 of them just happen to be kittens, which, by the way, you need to take care of and look out for. I don't know. Personally, I just would not want that kind of responsibility on my back. Like, you already have indoor cats that you can take care of and love and be around, but feeding every cat that comes by your house is going to spiral out of control really quickly. So you got to be careful. But that's just my opinion. What would you do in this situation? Would you feed these cats and allow them to come near your home? Leave a comment down below. Let us know. Today I messed up by running through a plexiglass wall by accident, completely shattering a hole into it and making it look like I was the Kool-Aid man who just busted through the wall. This happened about 2 months ago. My background is that I'm a 4th-year dental student. During our schooling, we need to go on rotations where we either do work or assist to do something productive for our education. So here I am, all excited because it's the last rotation I need to do. I gotta go to a private office and see my patients and do some checkups and stuff. I arrive at 8 o'clock in the morning and start talking to the assistants and hygienists to build a relationship so my last day can go smoothly. I start noticing that every room is sealed off with glass doors and plexiglass walls. They did this because they installed COVID filters on the ceiling of every room, and they needed to close off every room for ventilation to work properly. So everything is all nice and dandy as I get to know where I was working, the equipment they have for me, and my schedule for the day. Everything looks perfect as the first patient is at 9 o'clock in the morning, so I'm hyping myself up to get ready. 9 o'clock rolls around and the patient no-shows. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, cool, I guess I'll just wait. The lead doctor says, don't worry, we've got one for you at 9:45 and 10:30, so you'll have work to do. 9:45 comes around and the second patient also no-shows. And guess what? The 10:30 patient also doesn't show up. So far, this is a very odd day for everyone because apparently this isn't supposed to happen. They start calling afternoon appointments to see if anyone can come in early to fill the spots so I can do some work. Finally, someone comes in at 11 o'clock and I get started, finally. I take x-rays, do the checkup and cleaning, call the lead doctor to verify everything, and everything's going swift and smooth. By this time, I've already gotten to know some of the assistants and hygienists since we've been chatting for a little bit. They're all very nice and very sweet and telling me how it usually is at the office and giving me pointers. So when the patient comes, they are all happy to assist me and make my life easier. I finally get finished with this patient and the next one shows up early from an afternoon spot. I finish typing up my note and cleaning up the room. I ask the lead doctor to see if I can bring in the next patient and she responds yes. So I get up and instead of walking towards the door side of the room, I walk towards the plexiglass side. This was a big mistake. It was harder to see that there was plexiglass even there with all the personal protective equipment we had to wear, especially because of COVID. But regardless, it just completely slipped my mind that they even had it there. As one would expect, I just walked straight into the plexiglass, but instead of me just bonking my head, I straight up break a huge hole into the plexiglass wall, Kool-Aid Man style. There was an assistant inside the room with me, and 2 were literally walking by at the exact moment. Everyone just stopped and it was dead silent. Everyone was looking at me and I was just standing there like a complete idiot. Like, how did that even happen? After like 5 seconds of silence, reality hit and I started profusely apologizing. And all these assistants and hygienists just start busting out laughing. I'm like, please let me help repair this. I can try and pay for it. Please forgive me, all this other stuff. And here they are, having the time of their life, taking pictures and just laughing. All the while, this patient is still waiting in the lobby. So I asked the lead doctor again and she says, don't worry about it, and to just bring in the next patient. They even told me to just work in the same room, so I was like, okay. I bring the patient in and I start working. Turns out while I'm working, they're still having a blast in the background and taking pictures. They even print out a picture of the Kool-Aid Man and tape it on what's left of the plexiglass wall to pose to take a photo. Thankfully, that was also the last patient on my schedule, and the doctor was super understanding. They didn't ask me to repair or pay for any damages, and even asked if I would be back. I just straight up said, no, I'm not. I thanked them endlessly while apologizing and got out of there because I didn't want to risk breaking anything else. It sounds like the people he was doing rotations with have a great sense of humor. I mean, the fact that he didn't get in trouble for breaking a window basically, and they had such a great sense of humor would be more than enough reason for me to personally go back to that place. I know it's embarrassing, and I know you definitely feel like an idiot for running into a glass wall, but like they clearly think you're cool and they like you and they want you to come back. That could be a guaranteed job once you graduate. Talk about skipping the line of people who are applying for jobs. In the interview process, you just have to say, hey, remember that guy that busted through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man? That's me. Are you hiring? And I'm sure they would love to have you back. What a cool story to tell people. Overall, this is a really funny story, and it's making me second guess anytime I'm walking through a door. Is this actually the door, or am I about to make a big mess? My entitled mother wants my future home for herself so I can inherit it later in life. First, let's have some backstory. I've been homeless for a long time after being kicked out 3 times. The first time was when I was kicked out of my father's home when I was around 16. The second one was from my uncle's home after he became mentally ill and very unstable. And the third one, again, was from my father's home after we all thought he had changed, which we were wrong. And this was around 3 years ago when I was 24 or 25 years old. This is relevant as my parents were divorced since I was a kid because of my father's abusive behavior, and it comes into play later on. The second important background information is that my family has never had a lot of money, and any money that we did have was wasted on drinking, doing illegal activities, and illegal substances, if you know what I mean, all mostly done, if not exclusively, by my father, all while me and my brother were left unattended, starving, and so on. But my grandparents, both of them, but in this case my father's parents, have tons of money and properties. If I had to count them, I would say they have about 10 flats that they have because of a business that they own that allowed them to buy all of these properties. The thing is, my father and uncle had many fights with my grandparents, as they tell everybody that they were really abusive to them when they were young and so on. Now, I'd believe this, but I'm more inclined to think otherwise, as even after ending up in court multiple times over assaults, my grandparents allowed them and us to live in 2 of their properties, and I'd say those were almost luxury flats if they hadn't made them into big trash containers, sometimes literally using a room as a trash storage. Now on to recent events. So after going homeless, my mom took my brother and I into her flat for a time, although I was forced to find another place or go to the local shelter whenever her boyfriend wanted time with her, as she really didn't care if I had a place to sleep. The only thing that mattered to her was that she was able to spend some personal time with her boyfriend, if you know what I mean, and she didn't want me there for that. On perspective, this would have been a good start to an entitled parent story, but I would say it's just a bad parent story, so I'll leave it at that. And don't get me wrong, she was never a bad mom, or not as bad as my father at least, but she kept her distance, as being a mom simply wasn't the life she wanted. So after that, I decided to make contact with my grandparents again, although everyone else disagreed, but I had to take the chance. It had been around 15 years since we were forbidden from contacting them, as all my family spoke of them as the devil or even worse. And again, they're not saints, but my goodness are they lifesavers. They rejoiced after I came back to them, showered us with cash for anything we needed, and found us a place to live, renting it and giving us cash every month, paying for my brother's final years at university, and for my studies as well. Still, my mom didn't like most of it, although I choose to believe she was at least relieved she wasn't going to be forced to take care of us from there on. It got to a point where they bought my brother a flat too, not only so we had a permanent home, but also so he could have some property, as my father's home was supposed to be one day ours. I should mention here too that all these years, they still gave both my father and uncle a whole salary to each of them, so they knew we could have had everything we needed. Sadly for them, they were wrong about that. So now onto the main situation. It started as just another night for me, where I wish I could stop feeling like things could go back to square one at any moment. So I started thinking that, hey, it's been a while since I was told that I was going to be getting my own flat, just so we could rent it and have our own money. So I came to the conclusion that maybe I could help speed up the process and look for one myself. And so that's what I started to do. The next morning, my grandparents thanked me profusely for helping with it and taking the initiative. So we start visiting some candidates visits, some of which I go to with my mom too on separate visits. Somehow that starts a whole month of my mom telling me things such as, "I don't like that place for you. That flat is on a bad side of the city. Nobody would ever rent it." And stuff like, "I know which places you'd like better than you. I know what you like." At first, and to be fair, those seem like pretty innocent claims, but then they started becoming something else. You see, my mom has always lived in a rented house, and she's the only one of her family to not have a home of her own. Her two brothers, her sister, and her parents all own a home of their own, so she somewhat hopes to inherit her parents' property after they pass away. That's not happening though, as one of her brothers doesn't like her one bit and would never give his part away, and she has no way to buy it from him at all. She starts giving us hints, rather requests, of living at my brother's flat. It only has 2 rooms, but my brother's in university, so there's 1 free room, right? Well, no, because obviously he'd need a place to live after he finishes university, or if anything happens, or a place to stay if he comes by. My mom starts telling us how she'd do it for us for the money, and that we get along so well we'd never even notice she's there. Except all of this isn't true. She sometimes buys us groceries, yeah, but we don't ask for it. She has never given us any money aside from that. My mom at that time had spoken about her perfect idea, and I gotta say, it wasn't half bad on paper, but not in practice. She said something along the lines of, "Well, since you're getting a home of your own, why not, instead of renting it to some deadbeat that would destroy it and not even pay, I could rent it, but I live here, and you would live there? You'd like it. We don't have to tell anyone. You don't like this place anyways, and the money would stay home." At first I was confused. Like, why keep it a secret? She always does this with everything. It all has to be a secret, but makes things absurdly complicated. So I tell her, no, I can't rent you my house only for you to live at my brother's house. He should be asked first. Besides, that would mean he'd have to live with me, so he would definitely have to know. She goes on to say, "Well, see, this place is perfect for me. I can change this room for that one. The living room would have to be my room. I can make this and this and this other change." And eventually I was just stunned. She started telling me all the changes that she had been clearly thinking about for a long time. At least since all those months back where she started telling us how a good idea it would be for her to live here. I say to her, again, no, I don't think my brother would like living with you, and I won't let you live here without him knowing. If you want to do shady things, you'll have to tell him and the grandparents, since they're paying for all of this. She started turning red, not of rage or perhaps just part of it, but she always fake cries when she doesn't get what she wants. She goes on to say, "You would not understand. They tried to make me live in a terrible place back when they bought us a home when you weren't even born." I responded by saying, "But they didn't. They changed the place, and although I think you deserve a home too for all you had to put up with, it doesn't have anything to do with this." As I said, the place they ended up buying for them was almost a luxury one. You could see the beach from it and so on. Although it was never supposed to be their own place, it was bought through the previously mentioned business that my grandparents own, and we were supposed to inherit it when my grandparents passed away. This entire exchange was really weird. I didn't fully grasp why she was acting like this all the time, so I called my brother and explained the situation. He told me she had been insisting on the topic of living with me for a while, as if we were going to be living together in his flat. But since he knows her, he also knows that she's full of garbage, and essentially agreed with me on everything that I told her. Days passed, and she seemed to start accepting how ridiculous it was to make a very convoluted plan of renting a home to live at another one and not tell anyone. So I propose we talk about it on a normal, decent terms. That is, that she rents my brother's home since he isn't here for now, and he can choose where he wants to live, since there would be free rooms at both places. My mom was visibly displeased, but accepted the terms. But then came more drama after I found a perfect place for me. After I settled on a place that would work for me, my mom went into full Karen mode, trying to convince me not to get a place at that specific location because I guess there were thugs and gangsters around there. My mom and I have this massive back and forth where she and I argue left and right about the logistics of my home. She then comes back with this brilliant idea that she could live in my house, buy it from me, so then when she passes away, I would then inherit the house from her. After a while, she became very possessive of this idea, demanding to live in the house and basically have it until she passes away. So I'm trying to make myself ready for whatever happens next and whatever harebrained scheme she comes up with, because who knows what her comments could be next. This is a crazy situation. This original poster has a terrible extended family, and I'm not talking about the grandparents parents, I'm talking about the father and the uncle and the mom. The fact that this mom wanted to take over this guy's future home and live in it and then basically own it until she passed away just so he could then inherit it is absolutely ridiculous. I don't blame him for not wanting much to do with his parents either. They sound like deadbeats and they didn't want anything to do with their kids. I mean, this lady didn't even help her kid when he was homeless. Terrible parents overall, and I really wish this original poster the best in finding some kind of solution for his home. And hopefully he doesn't give it over to his crazy mom. My boyfriend is jealous that our new cat likes me a lot more than it likes him, and I don't know what to do about this. 8 months ago, my boyfriend's cat that had been with him for 16 years tragically passed away. We both mourned intensely, and we both talked about getting a new cat when we felt the time was right. 3 months ago, we adopted a 5-month-old kitten. She's wonderful and sweet. I've been very attached to the new kitten since I took a lot of the responsibility of caring for her. From stuff like the litter box to playtime, I was the main caregiver. Because of this, I also looked up cat care and being a cat parent. There is a lot of stuff that you just gotta know that you can and can't do. My boyfriend insists on feeding dry kibble to the cat, so I got her a water fountain instead of a bowl. I play with her with a wand toy for 15 minutes as the coffee's brewing every single morning, and again throughout the day if she seems bored. I think this has bonded me to her more strongly than to him, as he only plays with her in short bursts, and I've suggested that he take over these longer playtimes that I've been doing with the cat. For 2 months, all was well. She would play with me, snuggle with him during the day, and check in on our roommate. Lately, though, she's been following me from room to room and taking her naps on my lap every chance that she gets. I know my boyfriend is missing his cat, who truly was his cat and was attached at the hip to him, and is upset that he no longer is getting that kind of attention from the kitten. I also think I made this problem a little bit worse, because when my roommate accidentally let her escape only a month ago, I was so panicked and traumatized thinking I'd never see her again, that when we did find her and we got her home, I went to check on every 30 minutes just to ease my mind and make sure that she was still there and that I had the time to pet her. I think that also had me bonded to her even more and was a little bit unnecessary on my end, but I did it anyways. But here's the problem. When he brings it up, he says that I did this on purpose, and by playing with her and giving her too much attention, I have made her my cat. His tone is pretty accusatory as well. He also says that he hates the water fountain and wants to give her a normal water bowl, and I'm against this, as it's one of the things that I really insisted on the cat having. If I try to defend myself by saying I'm just looking after the cat's best interests and taking care of her the best way I know how, he won't hear any of it. If I suggest that he take over morning playtimes, he won't hear it. I ask what I can do to help, rather than just hearing what I'm doing wrong, and he tells me to just ignore the cat so the cat can seek out other people again. First off, I don't think that will work, because if you ignore cats, they only want your attention more and may act out. Second, I don't think it's fair to punish the cat when she's done nothing wrong. Third, I didn't get a cat so I could ignore her and not play with her. I do genuinely want him to have a good relationship with the cat. I don't know what to do, and it's very difficult to communicate with him about this issue because I get defensive when he claims I've done such and such on purpose when I'm just trying to take care of the cat the best way I know how. How do we resolve this? I would love to just give her more to him, but I don't see how that's possible without me ignoring her and therefore punishing her. What do I do? Honestly, there's not a lot you can do to really fix the problems with the cat. Your boyfriend is honestly just being really ridiculously jealous, and it's just not fair. The suggestion to try and just ignore the cat and to pretend like it doesn't exist in hopes that the cat will look for someone else to be close to is just not realistic. I totally agree with the original poster. That would just be punishing the cat for no reason. The boyfriend legitimately just needs to stop blaming his girlfriend for this cat attaching to her and make the necessary steps so that he can get attached to the cat and vice versa. Like, it's time to step up and just be more involved. I understand that he's mourning the loss of his cat and he misses that tight-knit relationship that he had for 16 years, but he also needs to understand that this is a new cat. It's not going to be the same one he grew up with, and he needs to accept that it's going to have a different personality than the one he's used to. I think maybe this is the boyfriend just lashing out because he feels really depressed and really upset that this new cat hasn't liked him the way that his old cat did, but I think he's going about handling it all wrong, and he's treating his girlfriend like garbage in the process. But overall, I don't think the lady in this situation has done anything wrong, and hopefully this man can get a grip, pull it together, and understand that his girlfriend is not actively trying to take this cat away from him, because that would be insane. My girlfriend has a serious drinking problem, and I can't keep ignoring it. What should I do? I met my girlfriend when she just turned 21, so of course I understood her wanting to drink and have some fun. But now a few years later, and many conversations later, she just won't stop or slow down drinking. And while sure, she doesn't get falling over sloppy kind of wasted, but I believe she is drinking way too much and is doing it as much as 5 days a week. I say I believe she's doing this because she knows how I feel about her drinking so often, so now she's been hiding it on the weekdays from me. I believe she chugs drinks while I'm in the shower so I do not see it. A few months ago, she said she was taking a break from drinking, but I started to suspect her sneaking alcohol, so I took pictures of the liquor bottles and later found, of course, she's been drinking them, to which she lied to my face about it until I told her I had picture proof, and then she cried and apologized. Today I was looking for a pair of my pants, so I went to check the drawers to see if they were in the place that I had accidentally put them or something, and I find empty cans of alcohol and empty bottles of wine in multiple drawers, and some inside of a duffel bag. She even refuses to drive whenever she sees her friend or goes to a family party because she has to drink at every gathering. What do? I can't enable this unhealthy and destructive behavior. Last talk about it we had, I mentioned her needing help, and she completely denies having a problem and needing help. She said she would apparently slow down, but that just ended up meaning she would hide it from me. How do I help someone that doesn't want help? I love her and don't want to lose her. What should I do? There are 12-step programs that can help out with this and find some semblance of recovery from this addiction, but at the end of the day, you can't force her to do those steps. Like, she's gonna want to have to do that herself. And based on the behavior that's being described, she is literally sneaking drinks behind your back because she knows that you're gonna get on her about it. The only thing you can decide is how long you want to put up with this behavior. I think you really do love this woman, and I absolutely believe you when you say that, but if this behavior continues, this could become a very destructive force for evil in your relationship. And at the end of the day, there's only so much that you can do for somebody. So I would take a step back and look at the situation and have an honest talk with her and see where she wants to go with this. Ultimately, I hope you find the solutions that you need, and hopefully you're able to work this out. But based on what you're describing, it doesn't look promising. Today, I messed up by driving 13 hours to surprise my girlfriend, only to then find her in bed with her ex-boyfriend. All of this happened this morning, but to provide some backstory, I grew up in Kentucky and would spend summers in Minnesota with a parent. One summer, I met her and clicked instantly when we were 12 years old. We started dating at 13, but life would always take me back to Kentucky, so it has always been an off and on relationship. Skipping over all the times we enjoyed together in the past 20 years or so, we have never ended things poorly and always remained friends. In the past year and a half, my life has completely flipped as I finished a huge milestone in my career that allows me to work essentially where and when I want. I cut ties with a relationship and sold my house and ended up losing my father, who passed away because of an illness. After all of this, we start talking daily again and getting close. So I took a job call in Minnesota and we spend all of our free time together. Things were going well, and we had been talking about building a life together, with her saying that this is all she's ever wanted and that it finally makes sense for the both of us. Last month, I took a job call out of town and we continue to talk daily. I've been going on an annual family fishing trip since I was a kid that happens to be going on this weekend. We're also on this trip celebrating my aunt's 60th birthday, so I decided to take the week off and drove to Kentucky for her birthday party. I have a few days to spare between the party and the trip, so after the party, I drove 13 hours straight to Minnesota to surprise her before work. When I finally arrived completely exhausted, I walked into her bedroom and turned on the light to see her ex-boyfriend asleep next to her in his boxers and no shirt on. I then had to drive another hour and a half to a family member's house before sleeping there all day. Now I'm sitting here in Wisconsin trying to process all of this and have a 12-hour drive back to Kentucky to look forward to. I have blocked her on social media and I've lost all trust in everything that I've done with her. It feels like 20 years has just gone down the drain and I'm still grieving this entire situation. I feel absolutely awful for this original poster. This is a terrible way to find out that she's been going behind your back, but boy, aren't you glad that you found out. Imagine still talking to her and trying to have some relationship and she's still doing this without you knowing. It sucks that you drove 13 hours to find out this way, but at least now you know that she is not loyal and you can do so much better than this. It is absolutely disgusting that she threw away 20 years of a friendship that could have become so much more, all for some ex-boyfriend and just so she could go behind his back. Absolutely disgusting situation, and my heart goes out to you. And I really hope you're able to move on from this and find someone who actually cares about you. Today I messed up by telling people that I was from Texas. I had no idea what was in store. I guess I'll begin by saying that I'm a 25-year-old female and I'm from Texas. One of my friends lives in New Jersey and she recently got married. I flew up from Texas and there was about 100 people there for the wedding. I was the only one from Texas. So during the night, I was talking to some people at the wedding and they asked me where I was from, and I mentioned that I'm from Texas. Their moods changed with me almost right away. Some of the men and women both started talking to me about guns and how Texas people are, mentioning the border and rednecks and everything else you can imagine. They also began to start acting as if they should be wary of me, just coming right at me with a bunch of stereotypes. I could not believe it. It was shocking for me to hear them and see how they were acting differently towards me after this. I'm kind of a big girl with a couple tattoos, and one of the women asked me if I'd ever been in a fight in a saloon before. I could not believe they were asking this. I clearly messed up by even mentioning the word Texas around these people. But on the other hand, I really wasn't ready for their reactions either, especially with all these stereotypes that I definitely didn't expect. That's really disappointing that they started judging this person based off of where they're from, aka Texas. I have a lot of friends from Texas and I would never go to some kind of weird stereotype to describe how they are. Like, that'd be ridiculous. That's like saying anybody from Florida has alligators, has some kind of warrant out for their arrest, and is probably on the run from the law. I mean, if I meet someone from California, I don't automatically assume that they're just some beach bum who goes surfing all day. Like, these stereotypes are just not even close to being true. And the fact that they said saloon instead of a bar cracks me up. I don't think anybody ever says the word saloon anymore. I'm pretty sure that got eliminated from the English vocabulary since, like, I don't know, the 1900s. Who gets in a fight in a saloon? Well, I don't think anybody does nowadays. Overall, it's kind of weird how people will start acting like that based on where you're from, and I'm really sorry they had to deal with that. My entitled cousin demands his dying mother rewrite her will so he gets his fair share after living rent-free in their home for 4 decades. I have a trashy cousin whom we will call Chad. That is also not his real name, just for reference. If you had a dictionary and looked up the word entitled, Chad's picture would sit next to the definition. Here's what happened. He found out that his mother had stage 4 throat cancer, and there was nothing the doctors could do to help her at that point. So naturally, his response was to get angry when she asked his youngest sibling to come take care of her during her final days. His father had a stroke years ago, and this sibling would be given the house after their mother died to be able to continue caring for his dad. Chad was furious that the house wasn't going to be sold and that he wouldn't get his fair share from the sale. To lay some background, Chad was over 45 years old, never lived outside his parents' home, expected his mother to cook, clean, do his laundry, etc., without paying a single dime towards rent, utilities, or anything. He spent the money he earned on whatever he wanted, usually food, hence his huge size of being over 400 pounds. When he found out that his mother wasn't going to change her will and was going to give the house and everything to his younger sibling, he threatened to burn the house down after barricading the exits from outside so that no one could get out. He thought he had the police in his town in his back pocket, but when my mom heard the threat, she got his mom to record what was said. When it was played back to the police department, they had no clue who Chad was and promised if anything like that happened at the address given, he would be the first to be arrested. To show how grateful this cousin was, he went out and got dinner for the family at a fast food place and then stood over his mom in her hospice bed with his hands out until she paid him back for dinner, most of which he ate, since his father eats hardly anything and his mother was fed through a tube into her stomach because she couldn't swallow anymore due to the throat cancer. When she passed away, it took way too long for his sibling to get out of the house, but he finally left and found his own place. And fortunately, this is where some karma comes back to bite him. He was working somewhere that they would direct cars where to go, and the poor older man in the car he was motioning hit the gas instead of the brake and slammed Chad into the parked car behind him, messing up his legs from the knees down. A few months later, he was back in the hospital because his diabetes was out of control and he hadn't taken care of his legs like he should have. They almost had to amputate them at the knees, but the doctors were good at their job and they saved his legs. Now he got a huge settlement from where he worked and can afford to have his whims catered to still. And yes, I know what you're thinking. I'm coming off as mean for wanting him to lose his legs, but he needs to know what his mother felt, the helplessness she experienced in her final days, while he sat in his room doing absolutely nothing. He was a horrible brother to his younger sibling and a terrible cousin, so he deserves to suffer for his give me what I want because I want it now attitude. I am completely completely no contact with him and his oldest brother, because they are absolute scum. The fact the other siblings turned out to be productive and wonderful humans is due to their wonderful mother's love and teaching. I miss her every day. She was like a second mom to me, who explained all the things mine didn't in order to protect me from the evils of all sorts of situations. But overall, I miss her with all of my heart and wish she was still with us. This cousin Chad is an absolute piece of garbage. And worst part about it is, I know people like this, where they have no interest in doing anything productive with their lives, they don't contribute to society in a meaningful way, and they treat their family like garbage. I can't get over the fact that he would stand over his mother asking for money back for the food that he had gotten them, despite the fact that the mom couldn't eat it because she was being fed through a tube. I mean, what kind of person does that to their family? I don't blame his parents for writing him out of their will. I would not want that 45-year-old man to stay in that house after I passed away. There's no way I would allow that to happen. And while I'm not a fan of wishing people ill will, it is interesting how he ended up having almost a very similar situation to what his mom had, with his multiple trips to the hospital and also almost losing his legs. If karma really is a thing, then this was karma's attempt at humbling Chad. But from the sounds of it, it doesn't look like he got humbled, but instead got a huge paycheck from the settlement and can now pretty much act like however he wants, without any negative financial repercussions, which is unfortunate. But overall, I don't blame this person for cutting that cousin out of their life, and I really am sorry that they lost their aunt, who clearly meant so much to them. My boyfriend has been lying about going to the gym, so I'm not sure if my boyfriend forgot, but we each have each other on Life 360. We both often go out with our friends late at night and have kept this app in case we can't get a hold of each other. We get notifications when the other person leaves and arrives from certain places, and have agreed that this isn't something that makes either of us uncomfortable. When I'm at work, my boyfriend will tell me he's going to the gym, then leaves me on red for hours, then texts me back that he's back from the gym, and we'll have an entire conversation as though he's gone to the gym. Some days I never get a notification that he leaves or comes back, so he'll just be sitting there at home. Some days he will leave and go to some random place and will go back home 30 minutes later. I'm not sure what he's doing or why he feels the need to lie to me, but I'm worried that if I bring it up, he's going to think I'm stalking his location. But honestly, I really just go based off the notifications, and every now and then when he's left me on read for a few hours, I'll check to make sure he's okay, but he's never at the gym like he says. Some days he'll tell me he's gonna go a second time, then he'll actually be at the gym that second time, but when I'm working, he never actually goes. I ended up FaceTiming him on my lunch break, and he didn't answer my first 2 calls. Then he called back sitting outside out of breath and said he was doing push-ups. I asked him how the gym was, and he admitted he didn't go, but that he was going after we got off the phone. I was getting ready to ask him about the house, and he said he had to go because his pre-workout was making him itchy, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll talk to you later. He messaged me saying he found my debit card in his back seat, and I told him I'd get it whenever I see him next, and he instantly said I had some kind of attitude with him. We started an argument, and while I was left here confused, he said he had things he needed to focus on and hasn't messaged me since. What is going on? I think you need to kindly remind him that you have an application that tells you exactly where he is and isn't, and that you know for a fact that he has not been going to the gym when he said he's going to the gym. I mean, sure, maybe he'll have the excuse of, oh, well, I left my phone at home, but like, it just doesn't seem right that he's saying this and then like not following through with it. Like, why would you say that you're going to the gym and then lie and just stay home, or then go out and get something to eat? Like, that's such a weird specific thing to lie about. And why would you make up these lies to your girlfriend? It just seems super sketchy. I'm not going to jump to conclusions that he's doing something wrong, like cheating or anything else, but I don't blame this lady for being a little bit suspicious of what her boyfriend is actually doing. It's not fair for her to be left guessing, and it doesn't sound like she's using this app to try and stalk him or anything like that. It sounds like she had a genuine curiosity and just wants to know what's up, which I think is a normal expectation in a relationship. Communication is key, and it looks like this guy is not communicating properly, and it sounds like he's not telling the total truth. Hopefully things get worked out and you're able to find the answer to this and work out whatever issues are currently going on between the two of you. Today I messed up by oversleeping and missing a class. So I'm a medical scribe, and before I can start working in an office, I have to start taking some classes to pass an exam. Well, yesterday I ran out of time on the practice scenario for the second class, and I didn't complete it, so I didn't get credit for the class. I was going to retake it this morning at 8 o'clock. However, I was up until 4 o'clock in the morning with allergies. I live in Kentucky, and when the seasons change, the pollen is really bad. Cold and allergy medicine is available on the shelves instead of behind the counter, and I'm allergic to nearly everything outside. I took a lot of different medicines and nothing was helping. I was extremely nauseous. My throat was incredibly dry, and it kept feeling like everything was closing up. My nose was full of blood, my ears were itchy, I kept sneezing, I felt feverish. Even though I didn't have a fever, everything was really bad. Eventually, I finally did get to sleep not long after I put my humidifier on. I got up at 6 in the morning, took my medicine, and laid back down. And then I slept through my 7 o'clock alarm. It's also worth noting that I have delayed sleep phase syndrome and have to set a pre-wake up alarm 2 hours before I actually have to get up. Obviously, with going to bed at 4 in the morning and having to get up at 6 in the morning, there was no pre-wake up alarm. Luckily, I was scheduled for my class for tomorrow along with the exam. The first class is at 3:30 in the afternoon, so I'll get plenty of sleep tonight. And my manager said if I have any other problems, we'll just have to make another date to make up the work. Hopefully that doesn't need to happen. Boy, have I been there. I once had a final at 9 o'clock in the morning and I slept in until 8:45 in the morning. And it takes 30 minutes for me to get to the school I was going to. I barely made it in time and ended up having to lie and say that I got a flat tire just so they would let me in for my final exam, which by the way was for most of my grade. So I completely understand where this original poster is coming from, where they're just trying to make it to do their test or whatever they're doing, but they can't get there because they overslept. So next time, maybe set up like 3 or 4 alarms like I have to do. That way you won't sleep through them and you'll absolutely make it on time. Today I messed up by spending way too much money on clothes. I am not the kind of person who spends a lot on clothes or who buys often. I buy a lot of my clothes secondhand, and even if I don't, I try to keep the bill under $100. I was working as a teacher for a while, so I had to change a lot of the stuff I wear, also that it could be more appropriate. I quit not too long ago, so I'm stuck with a bunch of clothes that don't fit my style at all. I went to check on the older clothes I had and realized I hadn't had any bras for most of them. Some were backless, others were strapless or one-shouldered. A lot of them were off-shoulders. So I thought, I'll buy some bras and make it work. But then I thought, well, maybe I should buy some shoes too. I would need that if I'm going to wear them with the dresses. Then I thought some tracksuits would be cool to go to the gym with and to wear at home since I don't have any. And I think you see where this is going. So eventually, several dresses, shoes, corsets, jackets, bras, handbags, skirts, you name it. I purchased all of these and my bill was $600 and I just paid for it. I have never in my life spent so much on clothing. Granted, I did buy 50 plus items, including some shoes and a strapless bra, but still, it's the most I've ever spent on clothes. I mean, it's the most I've seen anybody spend on clothes ever. On the plus side though, I'm covered for a while when it comes to clothes. But to be honest, I'm completely ashamed of myself. I showed my boyfriend the items that I bought, but I haven't told him yet how much I spent, and I think he'll go crazy once he finds out. So wish me luck. $600 is a lot of money to spend on clothes, but if you got the money to spend it, go for it. I am all about self-care, and sometimes buying something for yourself is a great feeling as long as it's within reason. I do agree that the boyfriend is probably going to freak out once he sees a $600 bill that went along with getting all those clothes, but hopefully it should just be a fun little exchange. And to top things off, it looks like the original poster says that they bought these all online, and from where she bought them from, she wouldn't even be able to return them for the full amount if she wanted to. So no matter what, it looks like she's stuck with all the clothing that she bought. She also goes on to explain that it's her money that she spent, so she didn't spend anybody else's money. This all came from her bank account. So overall, this is just a fun story, and hopefully the boyfriend doesn't freak out over it. Today I messed up by accidentally stabbing myself. We have 2 little kids at home, so dinner time can be quite chaotic and busy. Kids running around, lots of screaming and shouting, little acts of violence, that kind of thing. I was in the process of cutting up some chops into bite-sized little pieces for the little ones, so I had a relatively large knife in my hand. This is important as this is the very knife that I did most of the stabbing. My wife walks into the kitchen and asks me to hand her a cup from the cupboard. These cupboards are above my eye level and have sliding doors, which can be quite frustrating to use, especially if you're in a hurry and trying to figure out these sliding doors. Anyways, I pass her the cup but still have the knife in my hand. I reach back up to the cupboard so that I can close the sliding door, but in doing this, I jam my finger between the 2 doors, and this is where things start to go wrong. As a reaction to getting my finger jammed between the 2 doors, with the knife still in hand, I jerk back as quickly as I can, and I stab myself in the chest in the process, right in the pec. Again, I react quickly and jerk the knife out of my chest. At this point, I have no idea what the damage is, but I'm stressing. I feel hot, I want to throw up, I think I might go to the bathroom in my pants if you catch my drift. I stumble backwards but manage to apply a lot of pressure with my left hand. I take a second to compose myself. I gingerly look down at my chest as I take my hand away. There's a lot of blood, and all of a sudden, I don't feel so good. At this point, I really want to pass out, but I just kind of lie against the wall and make grunting noises while my wife calls the ambulance. The ambulance says that they are about 15 minutes away, so we're just hanging tight. My wife, being the champ that she is trying to keep the kids away from their dad bleeding on the floor. At this point, we kind of establish I'm not in mortal danger, just kind of injured. I'm still quite bleak, but all of a sudden, I hear my wife from the next room say, "Just eat your beans." I just love how my wife managed to successfully feed the kids in between all of this. Our friend shows up before the ambulance ambulance does, so he takes me to the hospital. Now I am trying to explain to the nurses and the other hospital folk that I managed to stab myself in the chest, but no one is buying the story. Anyway, I got stitched up and was back home in a few hours. Things could have been so much worse, but I'm glad I had my wife by my side. That is a stressful situation to be stuck in. I don't think I would have personally handled that with as much grace and composure as this person did, but it probably really helped that he had a wife that was super okay with it, who didn't panic, and they handled the kids with ease and absolute professionalism, even encouraging them to continue to eat their beans and to still pretend like nothing's wrong, just let daddy bleed on the floor. Overall, this is a really funny situation to be stuck in, and thankfully it wasn't anything serious. Today I messed up by losing my temper during an interview because I thought my internet disconnected, without me knowing that the interviewers were watching the entire thing go down. This actually happened today, and I feel like crawling into a hole and just passing away. Things have really not been going my way for the past few weeks. Among other things, work is a sinking ship. 4 people from my 6-person team resigned, effectively leaving my department dead in the water and forcing me to go back to my old department where I was extremely unhappy. So currently I'm looking for new work. Last week, a recruiter got in touch with me. They'd found my website and have a UK-based client that needs someone to do their contact and branding, and they liked my work. I was ecstatic and told the recruiter to set up the interview, which was today. I did my homework and I was ready. The interview was with the founder and the head of marketing. Once we were all on the call, the founder said he was having some connection issues, and there seemed to be some audio issues on the marketing head side as well. I got one of those ring lights so I could look less grotesque in the Zoom meetings, and set that up because the interview was quite late in the day for me, and the lighting was bad. I plugged the USB for the light into my laptop, which I don't usually do. When I normally use it, I just plug it into the USB port in my desk, which plugs directly into the wall. Also relevant, I live in South Africa, and we literally don't have enough electricity for everyone, so we have these rolling blackouts out of nowhere. It's called load shedding. I was aware that my area was supposed to start load shedding at 6 o'clock in the evening, and my interview was at 5. Anyway, about 2 minutes into this interview, the light and my secondary screen just completely go out, and I can't see or hear the interviewers anymore. It was at that point I just got so mad and I lost it. This is obviously the worst time for the power to cut. Is it load shedding? Our electricity provider is useless. They're never early on anything, even power cuts, so I figured my small meter must be running empty. Maybe something tripped, so I'm just cursing up a storm and yelling at nobody in particular. I run to the garage to check, but it seems like everything is running as it should. I go back to my work area and the light and screen have come back on, and by some miracle I'm back online. So I rejoin the call and apologize to the interviewers. I explain about load shedding and where I live, and we talk about how we might mitigate that if I should join the company. Then we talk about my work for a bit. They seem really happy and excited. The interview was scheduled to last 45 minutes, but after 25, they tell me they still have a few more candidates to interview, but they'd be getting back to me towards the end of the week. I'm a bit bummed out because I did so much prep work for this interview, and I feel like the technical issue really threw me off my game, and I didn't give it my best, but I smile and thank them for their time. Then they say, "We like your energy. You really crack us up." I didn't know how to respond to that because I wasn't sure what they meant. They saw me fumble a bit, and then they said, "Your internet didn't disconnect earlier. We could hear you yelling and cursing. We thought it was hilarious." I think I must have turned red and looked like I was about to cry because they were like, "No, we think it's cool because it shows you're authentic and human. Please, please don't feel bad." I apologized profusely, but I think they could tell I was still super upset because they started to say, "No, it's really fine. We enjoyed it. Please smile for us so we know you're okay," which was kind of a weird thing for them to ask me to do, but I just smiled for them and then we ended the interview. I don't know if they were being genuine. I honestly really hope so, and I hope they still consider me. But on the other hand, I hope I never hear from them again and just forget about the whole thing. I still don't know what happened to my electricity. I reckon it had something to do with too many devices connected to my laptop. Either way, I'm horribly embarrassed, and I'm not sure how to handle this. That is literally my worst nightmare anytime I'm online in a Zoom call. It would be my living nightmare if this happened to me, where I'm in a Zoom call, I think I get disconnected, and I freak out because this is a really good job opportunity, and I don't want to screw it up. But it sounds like the people he was interviewing with had a good sense of humor, and they understood where this person was coming from. And sometimes it just happens to be like that. Sometimes you go into a call and you don't expect that you're going to freak out and lose your mind. I mean, the original poster was clearly super stressed out, so I understand where they're coming from in that regard. And I also understand that desperation of trying to find a better job. Being on a team of 6 people and then having 4 of those people quit would put pressure on just about anybody. and then being forced to go back to your old department whom you despise? That sounds like an absolute nightmare. In my heart though, I really hope this is what helps him stand out in getting this job with his UK-based company. Nothing would be cooler than having them bring him on board and then him telling everybody that I got hired because I freaked out when I thought my internet disconnected. If anything, he might be able to spin that in such a way to show like, hey, I'm really passionate about what I do and I don't want to give up on my clients. So hopefully he gets a second interview and he can try and spin that to his favor. So hopefully things work out and he gets the job because honestly, he deserves it. 2 entitled parents called me privileged for using a disabled space. For some context, I have a heart condition and a hip condition. I have to use a wheelchair to get around. I can walk, but only for short distances before I either get tired or my hips start hurting. Now, pre-COVID, my parents and I were traveling by train for a hospital trip just to check up, nothing serious. I was sitting in a disabled space in my wheelchair, which had a small table and lots of space so I could get out easily. My parents were sitting on the seats beside me, reading magazines and playing games on their phones. I plugged my headphones into my laptop and started watching a movie. This was when the entitled parents came in with a ton of luggage and a pushchair in tow. The parents started filling up the space around and behind my chair with their luggage, and because I have social anxiety, I didn't know what to do or say, worried that if I did say anything, it would come off as rude, so I just sat there panicking. Thankfully, my mom piped up and very politely said, "Excuse me, that's a wheelchair space. Please don't put your luggage there. My daughter won't be able to get around if that's in the way, especially if there's an emergency." The entitled mom complained that the bays are full, which wasn't true at all. There was an empty luggage bay very close by that they could have used. My mom explained again that this isn't a luggage space and it's for disabled people. The entitled parents, of course, ignored my mom, took their toddler out of the pushchair, and then proceeded to stuff the pushchair behind my wheelchair. My dad basically repeated what my mom had said, and then the entitled mother turned around and snapped, "Well, we have a small child in a pushchair. That's the same thing. We should be entitled to put our pushchair there." After she said this, we told her, "We booked this space in advance specifically. We have paid for it. You've paid for your seats and we've paid for this space." My dad followed up by saying, "Imagine how you would feel if I came along and dumped my luggage by your seats." They continued to argue with my parents until finally the train manager arrived, and it turned out that they hadn't actually reserved seats at all. So they were asked to sit in the fold-down seats in the corridor with their luggage and pushchair. We thought it was the end of it, but we were wrong. They sat just the other side of the partition door, right in the view and earshot of us, and spent the entire hour and a half of the journey complaining about how disabled people are privileged and how we get everything we want, like luxury spaces on trains and close parking spaces. I just had to roll my eyes because I simply couldn't believe it. I simply can't believe it either. I mean, how ridiculously entitled do you have to be to try and invade somebody's disabled handicapped space just to put your luggage and your toddler and your chair, only to then turn around and call the person who's using that space entitled? I mean, how terrible of a person are you? I'm not trying to give a harsh judgment here, but if you have the audacity to call somebody who is disabled a privileged person simply because they're in a space that might be a little bit bigger and closer to exits and entrances, then in my opinion, you need a reality check. That person is there because they have some kind of disability that prevents them from getting around or doing specific normal activities like you. They are not privileged for having those spots. It is so necessary that they have those options available. Otherwise, how on earth would they get around? Thankfully though, these people got put in their place as they should. You don't just go around acting like that and treating people like garbage just because. It is not a good look, and I can only imagine the example you're setting for your kid. An insane, unhinged parent has his child intentionally hit me with his dirt bike from behind, and I barely make it away with my life. I just had the weirdest encounter with a parent. For some context, I'm currently doing a walk across 3 provinces, totaling in 1,500 kilometers. I'm from Toronto, and on April 30th, I arrived in New Brunswick to walk the Trans-Canada Trail from the start right to Niagara Falls in an attempt to raise money for MADD Canada, which is Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I'm now on day 5 of my walk, just hitting the 300-kilometer mark. Because just walking alone can be tedious, I use my headset so I can rock out as I walk. At the moment, I am fairly close to a town, so I am seeing a fair bit more people than I did yesterday. And this afternoon, there were ATVs zooming past me on this trail. To be safe, I was walking far on the left-hand side, so in the worst-case scenario, I could see the ATV coming and have an opportunity to jump out of the way instead of being taken down from behind. What I didn't account for was the terrible parent and their goblin hellspawn taking offense to me even using this path. Mind you, I was on a state path of the trail. It's easy to walk, not hilly, and I was just minding my own business and rocking out like a legend when suddenly I'm flat on my face, down on the ground. Something took me out from behind, and there I was, completely dazed, face down on the ground. My headset was knocked clean off my head, and in my my fall, I went flying 15 feet ahead and down the embankment. When my brain registered what happened and came out of the daze, and I hear a kid laughing and saying to his father, "You got him good," to which the father exclaimed that people like that won't learn unless you teach them a hard lesson. Now keep in mind, at this point I am in pain and my adrenaline is pumping, so I was upset. I stand up and I start yelling at them. So this parent actually saw me peacefully walking down the trail, minding my own business, and didn't like the fact that I was on the left-hand side, which in his mind I guess was me breaking the law. So he told his hellspawn to go full speed and ram me from behind on his dirt bike. This guy explains all of this to me as I stood up. For the most part, I had been able to keep my cool. The kid had left his bike where he took me out, and I'm looking in the thing and noticed the red blotches on it and the drips of red on the ground where I'd been walking. I had been so focused on what had happened to me and focused on the father that I didn't notice my legs were wet and my shoes were wet and now full of warm blood, both on the outside of my shoe and on the inside. And I also just noticed the huge gashes on my legs. Now that's the exact second I lost my cool and started screaming at the top of my lungs at these guys, asking what on earth they were thinking and how they almost unalived me. I swore a lot and I started moving closer to this guy. And that's when the parent pulled out a very large knife. Now I also carry a knife on me, but in no way have I ever thought about using it on another person, nor was I in any way about to have a monkey knife fight with this guy and his kid. This guy's already proven that he's completely out of his mind. So many things were running through my mind at that moment that I did the only thing I could think of at the time. Now for my safety while on the trails, I keep a small pouch on my belt at all times. And in this small pouch has a bottle of spray in it. This spray is called bear mace, and it's a stronger version of pepper spray to save your life in case of a bear attack. Now I have spent a lot of time in the woods camping and fishing and doing all kinds of activities. In 20 plus years, I have never needed to use it. And I honestly never imagined that the first time I would use it would be on another person. And honestly, if I didn't think I was about to be unalived by this psychopath and his demon spawn child, I would not have done what I did. But I pulled out the bottle and I sprayed both of them, and I got them good right in the middle of the face. And as they were screaming in pain, I threw their bikes down the embankment and hobbled myself as far away as I could get. I booked it for about 10 minutes until I stopped to clean myself up, using a bottle of disinfectant I kept in my bag. The gashes on the back of my legs are deep, but the wounds are clean. So I use super glue to close them up, and I make it in town to stay at a really terrible motel for the night. What I have taken away from all of this is that people from sparsely populated areas like this have serious issues. It's not like they didn't see me coming either. I wear a reflective orange and yellow vest, and I had a purple cowboy hat on. I mean, how can you possibly miss this? But sometimes, some people just want to cause you problems and try and hurt you in a very serious manner. This is an insane story because that's just unacceptable. This guy almost lost his life on a public trail, all because this one parent just didn't like the fact that he was walking on this trail, minding his own business. To actively aim for someone with your dirt bike with the intent to do harm just to try and prove a point. You know what would have proved a point? Riding by, stopping, and yelling at them, not physical assault. I'm really surprised that this original poster hasn't gone to the police and told them exactly what happened. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know any legal stuff, but from the sounds of it, this guy did what he had to do to defend himself. In my opinion, it looks like this guy used the bear spray as a way to get away from these psychopaths. Like, imagine what you would do if you get hit by a dirt bike after the parent encouraged their kid to hit you with the dirt bike, and then this guy pulls a knife on you. I can't say that I wouldn't do the same thing as the original poster. I would do whatever it takes to get away from these people and to save my own life, because these people were threatening to take his. So I don't really blame him for using the bear mace. This original poster is also kind of unbelievable. I mean, this guy knew exactly what to do to clean his wounds and then super glue his wounds closed. Like, this guy needs to be in the CIA. That's some top level stuff. The original poster also goes on to say later that he actually got the entire interaction on his GoPro and recorded the entire interaction. So I'm personally very curious to see this footage in action. Overall though, I'm really happy that the original poster got out of there with his life, and hopefully nothing like this ever happens to them ever again. Am I the jerk for still being mad at my boyfriend? After a heated argument, my boyfriend and I broke up. After a month, we've gotten back together. However, I found out that he hid some specific relationship behind my back while we were still broken up. 5 days after our breakup, he started sending some questionable messages to a girl he told me not to worry about, exchanging inappropriate pictures, planning to hook up, going to each other's houses, etc. According to him, they never spent any quality time together, if you know what I mean. He would just go to their place and they would just hang out as friends, which I am totally not buying. Before we got back together, he asked me if I had done anything with guys, and I told him no because I didn't. However, when I asked him the same question, he told me no, even though he was. He never even thought to tell me when we got together again, and he was just planning to hide it forever. When I found out he lied to me and that he was doing that only 5 days after our breakup, I was so hurt and obviously confronted him. I read the messages myself and I feel so disgusted. I simply can't believe he would do that to me. It really traumatized me and makes me feel like he never loved me, because during the breakup, I couldn't eat, sleep, or do anything, and he was just trying to get with another girl. I wouldn't even think of trying to get with another man. I'm too in love and was still hung up over him. He's told me that I'm overreacting, and it doesn't matter because he only wants me now. He also told me that he doesn't have to tell me stuff and that he can hide it if he wants to. I'm honestly torn and I just don't know what to do. Any advice would be wonderful. I'm personally very surprised that this woman even began to try and get back with this guy. If I found out the details that she found out and I was in her shoes, there's no way I would have wanted him back. Not only the fact that he went on to try and get with another girl, like, okay, hey, we broke up, you seem to be getting over it pretty quickly, but I'm still hurting. It's the fact that he was going to try and hide this from his girlfriend after they got back together and just not say anything. That is a pretty telling red flag to me personally, and it's not something you really want to toy around with. Like, if he's willing to hide that part of himself, imagine what else he might be hiding. Who's to say that's not the only girl he tried to spend quality time with? He very easily could have done that to multiple women right after he broke up with her. So in my opinion, if I was her, and I'm not trying to tell her what she should or shouldn't do, but I would definitely not want to be with that individual. There's no way I would accept that behavior. That is just unacceptable. That is not indicative of a good relationship. And she can do so much better. Life is too short to waste your precious years on manipulative cheaters. And honestly, one day she's going to find someone that sweeps her off her feet, who makes her feel happy, secure, and safe and loved, and won't go behind her back just to try and see this other girl, despite them being broken up. And what kind of reaction is that? It's been only 5 days and he's now getting with another girl? How quickly did that escalate? And I also want to know, how long has he been talking to this other girl? It's all super suspicious, and honestly, in my opinion, she can do so much better. Today, I found out my boyfriend is actually my half-brother, so I'm not exactly sure how to start this. I'm a 22-year-old female, and my boyfriend, who's 24, has been dating me for 2 years, and we're planning to get married soon. We had a strong relationship and really clicked, but stuff has not been the same since. When we got together, we got comments all the time on how much we look alike and how similar we are, but we just brushed off those comments. But the flags were there when we would talk about how little we remember our fathers and how our description of our fathers were almost identical to each other. My dad was a bit of a player, and I stopped counting how many half-siblings I had after I got to 20. He would take advantage of a young, struggling woman and then intentionally get her pregnant. He'd stick around for the kid until they were about 2 years old and then flee the country. Honestly, I wish this had not happened. We were at my mom's house and she kept making comments about how similar we are and about how similar we looked and how my boyfriend looked like my dad. It's stupid, really. It was all too clear. Eventually, we decided to both do ancestry tests just to prove we weren't related, and boom, there it was. The same man on both tests. It was kinda shocking. So yeah, we were half siblings. I'm not sure how we are going to go on knowing we came from the same dad, but yeah, I completely regret the test and talking to my mom that day and everything else. I still love him, but it feels like something has changed in a way. I'm not sure what to do next. And I know what you're thinking. This has got to be fake, right? But honestly, I wish this was fake. Unfortunately, this is currently my life, and I wish I had a solution. What should I do? Let me just say that the man being described as the father in this story is an absolute scumbag. He would purposefully sabotage intimate moments with his current girlfriend just so she could get pregnant. That's the most family-friendly way I know how to describe that. And then he would leave the country once the kid got to 2 years old. What an actual terrible human being. That is absolutely atrocious, and I can't possibly imagine what kind of stress that put on the mom. But finding yourself in a situation where the love of your life is actually your half-sibling is actually kind of horrifying. If that was me in that situation, that would be the nail in the coffin for for that relationship personally. I would not be able to move forward knowing that I'm staring at a sibling and I'm in love with them and I kind of want to get married to them. Like, I personally would not be able to shake that. It doesn't matter what kind of history I have. It doesn't matter what kind of time I spent with them. Nope, sorry, I'm out. Can't do it. Maybe other people could make it work and they are better people than me, but me personally, this is just about as far as I could go. So I wish this lady the best of luck in navigating this, and I'm really sorry that this turned out to be such a terrible situation for you. My entitled mom is demanding that I give 65% of my salary to her every paycheck. My mom doesn't care about me or my life, and most of the time she's out with her boyfriend doing God knows what. I do my own stuff and I pay for whatever I want with my own money because I have a part-time job. I am still in school and I'm 16 years old. Yesterday, I bought new headphones I had been saving up for. When my mom saw this, she immediately asked why I was wasting money on useless objects and told me to return it. Here's the crazy part. She got upset and now wants me to give her 65 or a minimum of 60% if she's feeling generous of the money I earned at my part-time job, all because I'm her kid and I owe her for raising me and paying the bills in the house I live in, which is ridiculous. She is insane. She should ask her insufferable boyfriend for it and not her son who's still in school. And it's not like she even lends me or gives me money at all in the first place. So now I have to pay just to exist. Great. And yes, I have every intention of moving out when I turn 18. I've even started looking into getting emancipated too if I can. My dad is not in the picture and I have no idea where he is, but hopefully he wouldn't treat me as badly as my mom is treating me. How disgusting of the mom to demand 65 to 60% of this kid's paycheck at a part-time job. Like, you can bet he's not making that much money at 16 years old, but the fact that his mom wants a cut of that, if not most of it, is ridiculous. Like, what parent would do that to their child? He is 16 years old. He has nothing. I understand if you want to try and make them find some semblance of responsibility and to help them get ready for the real world with like paying for bills or doing chores or any of that. That I could possibly understand and see that as like a learning experience or whatever you want to call it. But to just straight up in some kind of selfish way demand 60% of your kid's paycheck just because you raise them and the fact that you're their parent is really gross. Like, imagine how that makes the son feel. I know how that would make me feel, and it would completely make me feel unwanted. It would make me feel like an object, like someone that they can just take money from for nothing. It also, in my opinion, kind of makes it implied that the mom didn't want him in the first place. It almost sounds like she just kind of put up with him and she didn't really want to have to deal with raising him, and I pay for all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. So you better give me 60% of your paycheck. It's just like super selfish and super gross and vile. And I really hope this kid is able to get emancipated and get out of that house when he turns 18, because that's a terrible living situation and he can do so much better. My mom gets incredibly angry with me after I asked her not to come with me to a doctor's appointment. I am a 21-year-old male with several medical conditions, 2 of which would classify me as disabled, but I run from that label personally, maybe because of how I was raised. But because of that, I'm always in physical therapy and I always need to be inside of a pool with a coach. And as you could probably already guess, all of that costs money. Currently, I live off of my dad's money. They have always prevented me from getting a job. He is a medium-sized civil construction business owner, so growing up, he was able to support me and my half-brothers. When I went out on my own to live by myself 2 years ago, I didn't have as many health issues, and the allowance my dad set up was more than enough for me to pay rent, go to college, and pay for utilities. So when my health started to decline, I wasn't prepared for the extra $600 I would be spending just to take care of my health. Well, yesterday, I called my mom hoping she could help me afford a $191 bill after 3 years of not asking for more money or anything else. Instead of helping me out, she just started asking where I was putting the money and if I was trying to take advantage of my dad. I cut the call short because I couldn't handle having my character questioned after 21 years of nothing less than flawless honesty and 3 years of good money management. So today, I subtly asked her if she could skip my doctor's appointment. I didn't say it, but it honestly was because she made me nervous and uncomfortable and I was still a little bit upset. But I made it a point to make sure that I never said that and I never implied that. I just subtly said, hey, I want to go by myself this time. But things didn't go as planned. She instead passive-aggressively lashed out at me and sounded very offended. And also because I didn't want her in the office today, she said she's going back to her home country a month earlier. And I don't think she's even planning on saying goodbye. Overall, my situation is really weird and I just wish things would stabilize for once. This is a really unfortunate unfortunate circumstance because it looks like this original poster is really stuck between a rock and a hard place. They want to live on their own, but they didn't anticipate having so many medical issues. And that can really put a burden on someone. It doesn't matter who you are. So asking for a little bit of help from your family isn't totally unusual. It's just a shame that they acted this way. Hopefully though, this can get worked out. It seems like the mom maybe overreacted and is now planning on leaving the country or something like that. I guess they had just been visiting for a while and they're going back to their home country, but now they're going to be leaving a month early because they got offended. That seems like a massive overreaction if you ask me. Like the way the original poster even asked them not to come to the doctor's appointment could not have been more carefully worded. They basically implied that they said in the nicest way possible, hey, I just want to go by myself. And they didn't list any of the reasons why they didn't want their mom coming with them. They just said it in a nice way and then their mom freaked out. It's also really bizarre to me that the parents don't want this person to get a job or anything like that. And yet still they'll freak out when money is somehow not being spent the way they want it to. That just seems really weird to me. But hopefully things can work out for the better. This is probably a very stressful situation for the original poster to be in. And the last thing they want to deal with is their family who's basically funding their ability to live to be upset with them and somehow pull the plug. Otherwise, their health would probably suffer. Today I messed up by accidentally poisoning myself. So remember that slime stuff that was real popular back a few years ago? Well, a few years ago, my sister made it and it spilled on the carpet, and that carpet just happens to be in my closet. She was a lot younger, so I don't really fault her for making the spill. And by the time we found it, it was like concrete, so we never really did anything about it. Fast forward to yesterday, and I decided to take it upon myself to get that dry, crusty slime out of the carpet. I looked up how to remove it, and it said 2 parts vinegar, 1 part water. Simple enough, I made the solution and used napkins to dab the slime out of the carpet. It actually started to work, but I wasn't satisfied with just that. So before I stopped, I decided to spray some Clorox cleaner bleach on it. I'm sure some of you know where this is going. To preface with a little backstory about myself, I'm a 19-year-old man, and I've never truly looked into cleaning products and what to mix and what not to mix. I also have epilepsy, which comes into play later, so remember that. So anyway, after spraying this cleaner and bleach solution onto the carpet, hoping to at least get the color out, I started smelling this strong bleach smell. I hung around the area for a little bit and could smell what I thought was the bleach working its magic. Luckily, I was done trying to clean after that, so I left the area not too long after spraying. When I went to bed last night, I began having auras, which are like, at least in my case, mini seizures, where you see colors and a static-like image covering your vision for like 2 minutes. Other people have different experiences, this just happens to be mine. I had 6 in the span of about 24 hours, which is a lot for me, as I usually only have these maybe once every few months or so, and haven't had a full-blown seizure since I've been medicated. I spend most of the day resting in bed, which just so happened to be next to my closet, which also happens to be next to the vinegar and cleaner mix, which is right next to me that I'm breathing in. My parents and I were super confused until about an hour ago. I realized I probably poisoned myself with chlorine gas being emitted from my closet. I share a room with my brother, and he has not experienced anything yet. I also never got any of the traditional symptoms that come along with chlorine gas, stuff like nausea or burning eyes, etc. So I'm guessing there wasn't that much gas to begin with, and it was just messing with my already broken brain. I checked the bottle of the cleaner, and it does say to not mix with any other products, no duh. So I doubt that it did very much at all to me. Still, this made me feel very lucky that I came out with just some minor symptoms related to my seizures. I now have the windows open, and I'm hoping that this helps get rid of some of the smell, but obviously the closet is a windowless area, so I don't know if it'll help. As for the stain, it is still dyed pink in color, but all the physical slime did get washed out, which, I mean, all things considered, is a minor victory that I will happily take. I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times, this is such a dangerous combination when it comes to cleaning supplies. If there's one thing you take away from this channel, it's that you should never mix bleach with vinegar. It is so dangerous and it can cause so many problems in your life. This original poster got very lucky. I've seen many stories like this where people accidentally poison themselves when they're just trying to clean. And worse enough, it doesn't seem like this is something that's super common knowledge. Like, I had no idea this is what could happen if you mix those 2 ingredients. Thankfully, the original poster had a good plan of action to try and get rid of the smell and to try and air out his room as best he could. And hopefully something like that never happens again. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.